How's that sound?
Okay, I can work with that.
Work with that.
Yeah.
ShJuawnCast number 5. Shit. Is this the fifth one?
This is the
I
fifth
think
one,
it's
and we
the
haven't.
fifth one
Yeah, we haven't done one since, like
for a
October.
while. Yeah, because I was being an asshole. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just focus on the writing I can get done, and I made a lot of progress. And some other things have happened since then, writing wise, anyway. That I'm happy to report, but at the same time, I'm like, I'll keep it on the back burner for now. But it's so funny because I did finish a not a short story per se, but a short thing, not a short film, but a short written piece, which was good.
Hmm.
It was interesting. What's up, buddy?
Just I guess a lot of things have been uh, happening the last couple of months.
Yeah.
It's funny. You asked me before, like, is there anything you want to talk about?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. Usually, we're always talking about like things like stories that were written, books or stories we read.
Right.
Uh,
Films
talking about
mostly.
talking about movies, TV. Let's see what else
We
is there.
never talk about movies. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
You must be somebody else. Somebody
School.
else's.
We're always talking about stories from back in school,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I always seem to circle back to complaining about writing.
You're writing snobbery.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Uh, and I think it's actually extended to my some of those projects, like doing the
Mm.
little sidecast thing I do. Yeah, Ridley Scott, the
The
Duelist,
duelists. Awesome.
uh,
Awesome.
where
You know what?
I'm actually having like a hard time sitting down and talking with myself.
But you've been doing it pretty. You've been doing it pretty. You've been doing some pretty crackerjack stuff. I like the word crackerjack. I mean, I really like listening to the first. Was it the first 2 episodes so far? Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did try starting my third one, and the problem was I had to stop.
Mm.
Something had happened, and I had to jump
Oh
off.
shit.
And just for the hell of it, I was like listening to what I did for like I only got like 15 minutes in, and I was like, I sound awful. I sound tired and like very spacey. Uh, I was just like, ugh, this is
But
like
that's that.
it was just sounded. It sounded like I was because I write a lot of notes down, but it sounded like I was just making things up as I went.
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, that seems to be the common complaint you usually have about your own audio work lately, though. It's like you sound tired. You said one time you said you had cotton mouth. But I went ahead and I listened to I've listened to everything you've put out there so far. Oftentimes before you send me the notification for it, I used to happen to be on YouTube. I'm like, oh shit, Sean's got a new podcast out. Like what? One second ago, I'm in. But yeah, it usually sounds fine, and I love that you've added sort of audio, like other audio clips to color it up a little bit,
oh,
especially the stuff with your daughter. I love that. I love that stuff. I love it. I love it. It just makes it more dynamic and a bit more interesting than just sitting down and just that you do this, but you just talk up and talk and talk and talk and talk.
yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to have a like a montage of sound bites, and
I love that.
figuring out what to use was a pain in the ass because not every one of Ridley Scott's movies are very quotable. Uh, but there's some interesting stuff that you can find in some of them.
Yeah.
Like from GI Jane has like I guess what the trailer sound bites that they have is
Yeah.
it's kind of like why don't they just get it over with and call her Joan of Arc, and I'm like I don't like that.
Nah.
So like
Nah.
the soundbite I used was uh, oh crap, what the hell's her name? But anyway, Viggo Mortensen is
Mm-hmm.
it's during the SEAL training, and he says, "Do you ever wonder what happens when you get captured, O'Neill?" and she says the same thing that what is it? The same thing that guys think, or the same thing that the men think.
Uh-huh.
And like, I don't know, there was this weird implication that when you get captured, they like torture and rape you. So it's not just like like a man, like man, capturing this like woman who's a SEAL. They're like, no, all soldiers have to worry about that.
Right.
Matchstick Men does not have anything quotable. But what I picked was, why does this place smell like Lysol?
You would pick something like that. You'd pick something like that.
Yeah, it's like not every one of his movies is, are you not entertained?
Well, there's some plenty of like Tears in the Rain.
Yeah.
Blade Runner, I guess, has the best quotables from his oeuvre so far, right?
Yeah. Oh, he say you under arrest, Mr. Decker. He say you Blade Runner.
I never saw the theatrical cut of that.
Yeah.
So for shits and giggles, I found the some guy. See, I can't even tell you whether or not this is legitimate or not, but some guy, of course, like uploaded scenes from the theatrical cut with the voiceover, with the Harrison Ford barely interested voiceover in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit! This is actually. I prefer the late. I've heard some people prefer the theatrical cuts as opposed to the non-voiceover. Other cuts. The plethora of other cuts in the movie. I have to say I like the later versions of the movie. I don't know if I would have. I have to sit down and watch a theatrical. I don't know if I could stand listening to Harrison Ford. He even barely sounds interested in it himself, honestly.
Yeah, it's like an entirely different animal of a movie. Because I have like that set that has like all 900 cuts of the movie.
I gotta get my hands on that. Oh man, I don't even know how much if it's even like possible to find for like relatively cheaper now. But you got like the suitcase, right? Like the badass suitcase.
Anne had gotten me the suitcase back because you and I had gone to see the final cut.
Final cut
Ziegfeld,
at
the Ziegfeld, and it was like shortly after they actually released it on in the set.
Blu-ray.
I don't even have it on Blu-ray. I just have it on DVD.
Oh, the suitcases is this the DVD copies?
Yeah. They also had it in Blu-ray, but I didn't have a Blu-ray player. So. Yeah, it is what it is. It's it comes with a spinner car, and
That's still pretty cool
though. So to kind of the whole thing about the sound bites though, I didn't want to put that in front of every episode because it is like 3 minutes long. But so what I wanted to do was that
I like them, though.
I would either keep what I have from the second episode on, or maybe modify them a little bit, and add or take away. But I kind of like what I have now because I like that I included it's every one of his movies for the first episode in the order they were released.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
And it took a little bit of like sound editing so that it's not so jarring going from some of these movies. Because not for nothing.
It sounds...
Yeah. He has a very like eclectic filmography.
He does. You made a point of that to mention Someone to Watch Over Me, right? Was it the last one that you mentioned?
Yeah, because what I did, it was the black and white because I didn't even realize that. Black Rain and White Squall, and I can't believe I didn't even notice that. And then there was Someone to Watch Over Me, and
wait, was it Black Rain? Oh, it wasn't Black Rain, was it?
Oh, not Black Rain.
No. It was it was White Squall.
Oh, Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down.
Jeez.
Black Hawk Down.
He's got two movies that have black in the title. I didn't.
You know what? I feel shamed because remember in your cast you said if you haven't watched Black Hawk Down, which I haven't.
Yeah.
you said shame on you, and I feel ashamed. I know that it's on HBO Max, and I think Netflix as well. So I should get around to doing that. The thing is, I have to sort of steel myself and prepare myself to watch that movie because it's like all in. I just can't stop watching it. Start in the middle of the day or like on a Saturday or something, and just But anyway, I'm really sorry to interrupt you before, but was it sound editing, cutting it down, Black Hawk Down and White Squall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you were talking about wanting to like sitting down through movies the entire way through.
Yeah.
Especially if you're watching them at home. That's like difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tendency to either have to do it. Well, I mean, my work schedule is a little different now. I went back to work, which I'm not entirely happy about.
I bet, yeah.
And, it sucks.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I'm still home during the day. So if I get like certain things taken care of, I might sit down like after lunch and watch a movie. Or I have to do it late at night.
True.
So I fit it in occasionally. Like I've been kind of watching the Ridley Scott ones for the cast I'm doing, just so that I'm not. I mean, I probably could talk about these things because it's not very extensive. I usually do about 25 minutes a movie.
Yeah.
And it's more kind of me just doing, insight, like quick insight, a little bit of, my personal reaction to it, some connections between them, and then it's like it.
But still, it's interesting to listen to because, I mean, even if you have like a passing interest in Ridley Scott films, of the guy, and you're able to connect the dots. Okay, he made this, that, and the other. Then I mean, look, I haven't gone on IMDb trivia pages and it feels like centuries, right? I used to do it all the time, or even Wikipedia pages for that matter. But so it's nice that have something that is that you can digest, I guess, in a way, and it makes it still entertaining and interesting. That's how you do it. I really like. So whenever you have something up new up, I'm like, oh yes, that's right now. That's what I'm going to listen to, and it helps if I'm driving somewhere, mostly because I'll just have you in the background and I'll listen. Or even what was it? Like a few weeks ago, we had that big snowstorm hit, and I was in the backyard and I was putting us tarps over it wasn't much. It was just like over our backyard table or whatever it was, and I just had the was it the latest episode on? I guess it was, and I had that on speaker on my phone listening to you, and was it Ashlyn?
Ashlyn.
I guess it was the first episode when she was talking about the xenomorph, even though she's never seen Alien. That was so adorable, dude. It was awesome. So I was listening to that in the background.
Yeah,
good stuff.
She's been drawing xenomorphs. Just all based on this. Yeah, the Jonesy book that I have. And the covers of the DVDs. That's like it.
That's it.
So
let the children's imagination play.
Yeah, I will tell you this much: since I kind of do script out certain things, I think you're going to find my next one kind of funny when I talk about. Do you want to know what the next one is?
Sure, of course.
It's. I know. I'm trying to remember if. Okay, so it was 1492, Conquest of Paradise.
Yes.
And Alien Covenant. Those are the two duels. That's the duel. Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
And you're going to be. Here's the crazy thing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, for one thing, I just based on some of the things I'm gonna talk about, it might. You think it's crazy. I explained this to Anne, and she said,
"Oh, I love it.
Wow, I can't believe you actually made a connection between those, and it makes sense."
I could see it. Go ahead.
What, you want me to talk about it?
Oh, well, all right, never mind. You hold it off on it. Everybody, listen to the next podcast.
Yeah.
The Duelist.
All right, well, this is all I'll tell you, okay? One movie is
right.
called 1492, Conquest of Paradise.
Yeah.
And the other movie, Alien Covenant, was originally called Alien Paradise Lost.
Oh. Ha ha ha.
So both movies are about finding a new land. But
Did you hear that?
I have some really humor. What? I'm sorry.
Did you hear that they announced the third in the Alien prequels?
Yes.
The title? Did you get the title?
No.
It's all right. This is an exclusive. You ready? It's called Alien. Terrence Malick. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that reminds me of a joke. I was on Reddit and they're like, what film director has no right to be making a superhero movie? And what is the film? And I put Terrence Malick ... Aquaman.
Okay.
And this person gave me an upvote and then and I say, you could just imagine the narration from his octopus.
Oh, of course. You already did that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
the really crazy, this guy does this narration, does this comment where he writes like 3 lines of narration. It's like, what is the ocean? Why is it that we live in it? Do we,
What is the ocean?
Are we a part of it? Is that why we go back to it? And it's like, and this is all coming from Arthur Curry. I'm like, wow, man. Yeah, I was right. Terrence Malick should not be making Aquaman, but I want to see that movie now.
Me too. The way you said it, like, yes. And would Jason Momoa even be narrating? It would probably be Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
Even Sissy Spacek, for that matter. I started watching. This is years ago. They had it on the channel, on the cartoon channel. They started watching New World, and I dug it.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's. I couldn't finish it. It's just one of those movies like I started watching in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, great. I really like it so far. I gotta put it away for now. And I never went back. I never went back to it. There's lots of movies in that list, for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. I'm trying to think of what the other thing I had. I think it was. See, I don't know comics too well, but I did Jim Jarmusch.
Yeah.
Doing a standalone dupe movie.
Okay, what is that?
Well, you should Google Dupe.
Movie?
He's a Marvel character.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. Dupe. Okay, I'll look up Dupe. Okay, this is such exciting radio. Dupe Marvel. Let's see. Okay, what the hell is this, Sean? Is he's an X-Men character?
Maybe
X-Force.
Everybody was like in X-Men or X-Force at one point.
He is a green floating. This is according to Wikipedia. A green floating reniform creature of unknown origins who speaks in a quote language all his own. His abilities include flight, accelerated healing factor, superhuman strength and durability, which you wouldn't know it by looking at him. Physical malleability, that's more plausible. Ability to replicate physical objects, and lastly, extra-dimensional void within body that can store objects and people.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you want? Okay, I can see that. Happening with the Jarmusch film. Oh, I love this. This is how exciting we are. One of the questions that people ask on Google in regards to dupe, and I spelled dupe wrong. I just put DUPE like a copy, but it's DOOP. Well, somebody asked, what are dupe powers? That's it. All right. Okay.
welcome to the audio medium here, as we talk about the physical look of a character.
The question following that one is, how many duplicates can multiple man make?
Okay, I think a Russian bot wrote these.
Hey, I welcome that.
Oh
my goodness. Well, that's funny. So
I thought you'd like that. Yeah.
This is. I did.
That's my next one after talking about Ridley Scott. I'm going to do a dupe sidecast.
But I wanted to ask you. Shit. I wanted to ask you though. What happened?
One of my headphones is like wonky. It's giving like weird. Oh no, that's my ear.
What? Your ears are wonky?
Hold on a second. I'm going to do something really weird for my sinuses here.
I just wait for you to come back.
I just did something like I'm on an airplane. I had to blow out my eardrums. That's better. Uh-oh, what happened?
Get a belly full of wine.
You hear me?
Maggie's a pretty nice girl. Someday I'm going to make her mine. Oh, yeah. Someday I'm going to make her mine.
What the hell?
Here you go. You're back.
My internet just died for a second.
Spazzed out?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm pretty good so far. Everything's falling in my end.
Yeah, it was so odd. I had to take my.
Which never happens.
Yeah, I had to take my earphones out because I was I had almost like feedback or static in my ear. And it turned out I thought it was the headphone, and no, it was just my ear vibrating against the headphone. So I had to take my headphones out, hold my nose, and like blow my sinuses out. You know, kind of like I was.
So your ear popped, I guess.
Yeah.
Like when you're on a flight. Yeah.
Yeah. So
wait, how did that connect with the internet though? How did your internet?
I think that was just
the force of your ear popping so great.
Yeah, I've got these dupe powers, Screwy dupe. Dupe.
Well, I wanted to ask you really quick though, but this is a sort of the pain in the ass question in regards to Duelist. But are you gonna do like semifinals? Are you gonna take like the lead, like each of the quote winners from the first round and match them up against each other, and then have like the square off? I
didn't want it to seem like it was like a Final Four tournament. My idea was really just to find a connection between two, and like I'm using the word duel because it's I honestly thought that it would have been kind of neat if his first movie and his last movie were almost the same movie, and the Duelists and The Last Duel are really similar in that way.
No shit! I gotta check out Duelists. I haven't seen
it. This is what I find fascinating about the Duelists. It's not a very conventional film structure. So I'm fascinated by the fact that it's like I don't know that it's you wouldn't teach somebody to write a movie structured this way, about one guy looking for satisfaction from another guy, which is kind of you know what I mean, satisfaction. Like taking the gauntlet
yeah.
And the Last Duel is kind of the same thing, but for an entirely different reason. And it too has an unusual film structure.
Sure does.
So I don't know. I thought that would have been kind of neat if that would have been his first and his last movie. But he is going to be making movies until he dies.
That's obvious. Yeah, good for him though. I mean, I'm a frequent listener to Midnight's Edge, and they don't like Ridley Scott there. And one of the main gripes that they have, and I like Midnight's Edge a lot. I think a lot of their commentary is very sharp, and they have a lot of panelists that are really well spoken. But in regards to Ridley Scott, the one hang up that they seem to have with him is that they say that he doesn't know how to tell a story. what did I say, poppycock and boo-hoo to you? Because I know he does.
Oh no, I'm gonna add on to that. I don't know if they're particularly wrong, but I think they might be
Yeah,
inaccurate.
that's probably close to you.
Uh,
Sure.
I think that what he does is he tells stories like nobody else would even to like I've said this before, like Blade Runner is a movie that is probably stronger on its visual storytelling than it is on its plot.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you figure out what the plot is, you're like, wow, that's really simple.
Yes, basically, yeah, it's very simple. It
Yeah.
is indeed. Yeah.
I mean, hell, even sillier movies, silly, and I love the movie, but like Legend is like such a simplistic, like fantasy movie.
Yeah.
It's guy loves girl, girl gets, I don't know, captured.
Mm-hmm.
Guy has to go get girl. He
Yeah.
meets, monsters. Has to defeat the monsters. And of course, it was written by like a kind of an eccentric underground poet, so it's got all these weird rhymes,
Oh shit!
and
I know
it's got a goblin that looks like Keith Richards. So my thing about Ridley Scott is that I think he can tell stories, but he's not going to do what I think you're expecting would be done, which is maybe kind of tell them a little safer and
True. Yeah.
maybe kind of more for the masses.
Mm-hmm.
I think what he does is the guy loves to take swings for the fence on
True.
everything.
Yeah.
And he strikes out a lot.
But you know what? I mean, but, you can't hide your notes of admiration on your behalf, and even mine, because there are times when I watch one of his films and I'm like, holy shit! Like I haven't seen Gucci yet, but I saw Last Duel, and I was like, okay, this is historical Ridley. I love historical Ridley. Like history Ridley can just light my fire any day, right? And when I was watching Last Duel, I'm like, this is so beautiful. This is just like a continuation from his previous epic so far, right?
Yeah.
And it's just another. I mean, you can watch Kingdom of Heaven. You can even watch Exodus if you really wanted to. Exodus, Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh, wait until you get that episode.
Oh, Exodus, Kingdom of Heaven. Then you watch this, and then it's like you'll see like the sort of the rough continuity. I mean, wait a minute. No. Last Duel takes place chronologically. What takes place after Kingdom of Heaven? Because Kingdom of Heaven takes place when in the 11th century, 12th century.
Kingdom of Heaven is in
that would be 13th,
the 11.
Right?
It's in the 1100s.
All right. So and then Last Duel was what, 15th century? No, 14th. I don't know.
14th, because it's the
14th.
13. It's the 1300s.
Mm-hmm. And even then they were still talking about going on crusades, and I think there was like a throwaway line or two about doing crusades in that.
At least I think that is. Hell, in Robin Hood takes place at the end of toward the end of the Crusades, I think.
Yeah, there you go. So you can stack these up side by side, and then you can have a pretty good history Ridley film festival, like one back to back. I mean, if you get over the hump I think the first. I don't know what the hell happened to Exodus. Is there a director's cut to Exodus that's worthwhile if there even exists? Because I would love to see it.
Okay. I watched Exodus like I don't know when I first started thinking about gathering notes for this thing. I watched Exodus because I had seen it years before and thought. Mm-hmm. That was disappointing. So I had to watch it again to go like, what is it that?
What the fuck happened?
Part of me was almost going like, why would you bother making this movie? And I think I realized what happened, and I think it's the same thing that happened with Robin Hood. I mean, I was going to talk about this because I have notes written down about the fact that I think Robin Hood and Exodus fall into the same problem, which is, sure, we're going to make this enormous movie, big spectacle. Can you just make it Gladiator?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and because the weird thing about it is like Exodus kind of is it's very Gladiator, a little Spartacus,
Yeah.
and I think it kind of fails to even try and be a good version of that. It just looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a, it's it's like a because if you were to make that, if anybody else were to make Exodus, I think it would look like the Ben-Hur remake,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
it would be 2 hours long, and would completely get rid of any of the story that made Ben-Hur like an interesting like biblical epic, and
Mm-hmm.
instead almost turns it into an action film.
Hmm.
I mean, Ben-Hur is one of the great gay romance movies that was ever made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you ever hear my joke about
No.
Ben?
Well, maybe he did, but it's been a while.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Have you seen Ben-Hur, the one with Charlton Heston?
Oh God, a long time ago.
Okay.
I can't remember it, but I
So
can remember it. But you know what I mean.
the great thing about Ben-Hur is that you've got Heston is like an iconic matinee idol kind of he's a good looking guy, very masculine,
Sure.
and the actor who plays Masala, I'm blanking on his name,
Oh God.
he was told by crap, what was the writer,
Hold on.
oh shit, he uh, damn it, it's gonna come to me at the worst time. uh,
Carl Tunberg?
no,
No.
he did like he did kind of like a rewrite on the movie, and everybody
Hold
knows he
on.
did. Let's see here. Gore Vidal.
Oh, Gore Vidal. Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
Gore
Interesting.
Vidal. Uh,
Interesting.
he said to the actor,
Jack Hawkins? Is that Jack Hawkins?
uh,
The guy who plays
let's
in
see,
this?
Stephen
I'm
Boyd.
looking at a Stephen. Oh, okay. There it is. Yep. Stephen Boyd as Masala.
He said to Stephen Boyd, I'm going to tell you something. He says, William Wyler was on board with us. He says, you two were great friends when you were young. Probably a little, boyish thing happened between you. Maybe it didn't. The fact of
Mm-hmm.
the matter is, Jonah Ben-Hur is a completely heterosexual man right now. Probably has a great love for you as a brother.
Mm-hmm.
You are in love with him. And I tell you, he says, if you play it that way, your performance is going to look a lot better than Charlton Heston's. And it is a lot more interesting
Oh
to see
shit.
this one guy playing it more of like as a homosexual relationship,
Right.
and the
Right.
other one not knowing about it
Huh.
because they didn't tell Heston about this.
No shit. Okay, I gotta check
Yeah,
this out.
yeah.
Ben Hur, man.
Gore
Jesus.
Vidal told this story. I was that there was I don't know where I saw it, but I remember him telling it, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. Uh, so what was my
I,
joke? Oh, there's a line in Ben-Hur where Marcella is talking to Ben-Hur, and he says something to him about like talking to the local people because they're your people.
hmm.
And Charlton Heston says this line. This is, "What is it I can do, Marcella?" He says, he says, "I am a Jew." And I was like, the way that Heston says it, it's a statement, a question. He's questioning himself, also kind of like wondering. Like he's playing it 5 different ways just to say this one line. He's like, "I am a Jew." It's almost like that. The joke about like, follow your nose, follow your nose, follow your nose.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've ever heard this one. I
Yeah.
don't think I will call you stating it. Yeah.
I don't know why I brought that up, but because we're at the thing about Exodus.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a I think just kind of a movie that becomes less about the story of Exodus or the Ten Commandments, and becomes more about, one man. A man became became a slave who became a warrior that defied a nation.
Yeah.
A gladiator, yeah.
The thing I was thinking about in regards to Exodus was, I remember when I watched it, I'm like, man, you hire Sigourney Weaver for like one scene in this movie, and she was like what, like Ramses' mother or something, or like wife or something like that.
His mother.
And now when you make that big, like that's a huge stroke. When you have a casting like that, I'm thinking, dude, this is gonna be like the direct. I don't know about the theatrical, but the director's cut's gonna have like it's gonna be like kind of like on par with Ten Commandments, right? When you have a cast like that, and you have like that build up, right? Like you can just imagine like the scenes being eaten up between like even Christian Bale and Sigourney Weaver. I can kind of see it already, right? And then with what happened with that movie, where I just felt like it was built on stilts a little bit. And then what I feel like was most interesting, which I think I don't know, it seemed like Scott was more interested in trying to communicate the story in regards to having this be plausible, the Moses story be plausible and realistic, as it were, right?
Oh, you're talking about the scientific reason for the commandment, for the plagues.
Well, that and the fact that maybe they like that. Okay, maybe Moses wasn't quote unquote entirely there. And on top of that, I remember when they did the scene where he's like up in like the I Need a General scene.
Yes, yeah.
Which was fantastic. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this was good. I like this part. And the fact that they got Wagner playing in the background, I don't know who thought of that, but that was like some music editor thought, hey, you want to be pretty good over here if we played some Wagner? What? How? And then they'd probably do a little needle drop, and I forgot where it's from. But that was like the one song from the soundtrack that I just got because I'm like, oh yes, please, this is perfect. I don't know what it is, it's perfect, and it carries over as the plagues are happening, and there's that scene when he's in the reeds or whatever it is, and you see like Jesse Pinkman.
Yes. Aaron Paul. He's so good as Jesse Pinkman. Pinkman? Moses Pinkman. Sort of spying on Moses from amongst the reeds, and Moses, is he arguing with himself? Is he insane? You know what I mean? It's like it's just that like, you know what, that I really dug. Like, not that I think that that's what actually happened, quote unquote, but I really enjoyed that. I was like, you know what, I feel like Scott does this stuff where he's like, okay, let's make it plausible. What it's like that the commentary he did for that one scene in Kingdom of Heaven, shortly after the beginning of the film, when Balian goes with Godfrey. Yeah, exactly. And do you remember, like, okay, if these guys are poor warrior knights and they're traveling to and fro amongst the countryside, what would they be doing when they camp? And then Scott starts to, and what would we show, right? Very similar to what Kubrick did with Spartacus. I mean, if you look at the storyboards for Spartacus, Kubrick was like, okay, you know what, we'll have to flesh out the reality of whatever this camp of slaves might look like. Even if it may not be totally realistic, it has to be. Do we have to have some sort of grounding as an audience as to when we see these people, what are they doing? They're real people. They're not just background players. Like, what are they doing? Same for Scott doing with Kingdom of Heaven. It's like, okay, if they're warrior knights, what would they be doing? Well, they're just not sharpening their swords. How are they cooking? How are they catching their food? And it goes into that. Yeah. And it becomes like you scratch past the surface of that a little bit. It doesn't go that far, but then you scratch past the surface. It's like, oh wow, this is actually. That's where the entertainment comes from for me, especially when you might watch it blind, as it were. You might not even catch these details, but then you do a thing where you listen to these DVD commentaries. I don't even know if they still do them anymore. Do they do them anymore? They do. The one problem is that they plan them now, usually around the production of the movie, and I think some of the best commentaries are more retrospective.
Yeah.
When you do them and they almost become a like, and this was this and that, and oh yeah, do you remember when we filmed this 2 months ago? Yeah, that was
Yeah, right.
really special.
Right.
You know, it's like one of the best commentaries I ever heard was for Kentucky Fried Movie, where John Landis, John Landis, Jim Abrams, the Zucker brothers, and their producer for the movie are watching the film, and Landis just admits he hasn't seen the movie in like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Zucker had not seen the movie since they got released. And maybe like David Zucker might not have seen it either for a while, and Jim Abrams saw it like I don't know, like years ago, and the producer, you know, is like the guy. I think he's the guy that kind of like still shills the movie around. He knows it. So they're watching this movie that they haven't watched in years, a movie that you cannot produce now because of how like raunchy and like how. It's not racist, but it is very like you know, it's very racy. You know, there's a lot of profane things, and you know, things that kind of talk about you know, gross things and whatever. So the commentary is mostly them laughing at the movie. And saying, how the fuck did we get this movie made? Like,
yeah, dude.
You know, like, Anne jokes about it because I had her watch it with me. And like when they get to the part, it's like, you know, a movie so salacious, you're gonna cream your jeans. Oh, jeez. Just like...
I don't know how it found me. I never actually sat down and watched Kentucky Fried Movie before. Goodness knows I've watched plenty of other Landis movies, but I don't know how it found me on YouTube. But it was a fistful of what was it, a fistful of yen.
Fistful of yen. It's the movie that's like in the middle of the film.
And the Take Them to Detroit line. Well, I know the Take Them to Detroit line goes throughout the movie, right? Detroit's like this piece of shit place, but it's like no, not anything about that. I died. And the way the guy said it, like, take them to Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I've seen that. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen it in a while, but I died. I was like, I gotta watch this movie sometime. This is fantastic.
Yeah. One of the guys that bad guy with the Enter the Dragon hand on says he cuts a guy's head off and then says, you know, put him in the work put him in the work detail. The guy's got no head. So now we're back to the Kentucky Fried Movie podcast here.
Hey, no shame in that, man. We should do a Landis series for all its the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because that's loaded, and you know what though, it's I know, right, but. There was like a golden streak there, man, where he made like truly like amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I haven't actually sat down and watched like all of Animal House like all together, right? But I've watched Trading Places. I watched Coming to America. God, did you see Coming to America too? Coming to America.
I did.
What do you think of that?
You know what? Okay, it's not good.
No.
But I will tell you, I was glad to see Babar the elephant made a return.
Yes.
Because he was a little elephant in the first movie, and now he's a ginormous elephant.
What the hell happened to that movie, man? I feel like...
Here is the problem with the movie. Eddie Murphy was a completely different kind of performer when he did the first movie.
Yeah.
And thinking back on it, it's such an odd thing, but the character of Akeem is very likable and sensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, after many years, you can't look at Eddie Murphy like that anymore.
No.
He is turned into, and he said this to Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
has become very self-conscious.
yes,
He
he has.
he is very closed off. He's just not. He's not the same goofy guy. So when you see
Right.
him as Akeem, you go, "Wow, this guy looks like he hasn't had friends for the last 30 years."
Interesting. No, the thing is, the other takeaway I got from was it the comedians in cars getting coffee,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what you're referencing. No, I saw when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, he's still Eddie Murphy. At least that's what I used to. I'm like, he's still Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And when I was watching Coming to America, which is like the title's so kind of annoying because it's like, come on.
Yeah,
Man.
what
It's
the
like,
what the fuck, man? You gave it the same title with the two in the middle.
So now you have to like, and it's today is February 2nd, 2022. So I mean, come on, we have to talk about Coming to America
Yes.
now, right? But the thing is, if you wanted to differentiate from the first film, which is fantastic, it's truly like, Sean. It's like when I saw it, I was a kid when I saw that movie, and then when I was older, it got even better.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just there's something like kind of like can you imagine like making comedies that good? Like it's like it's. I mean, that's like hard enough to do sometimes, just to make a good, decent comedy. But to make something that's so like just out of the park with excellent special effects, I might add. Even Coming to America had that when they had that weird Leslie Jones scene, like, oh no, your mother's Leslie Jones, like, you know, Akeem had a booty call that night. I'm like that okay, whatever. That's like, I don't like that part, but the special effects were really good.
Yeah.
Because it felt like it felt convincing at that point, but still, it was like, I mean, how do you fuck that up? I was like, can't they get Land? I mean, not to say that Landis was like, you know, the you know, he wasn't the main cause for the first film being so good, but Landis at the time has killer comedic timing. Like he would break the fourth wall every once in a while, and it would still work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
With the dog. Remember the dog? Remember from the first one?
Yeah.
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 That's. I mean, it's like the second movie just feels like such a it feels like such a waste of time. Honestly.
I can point exactly what the issue is.
Yeah.
Now, Eddie Murphy came up with the idea for Coming to America back in like the mid '80s, and what happened was the writers. I just watched something. It was a documentary on Netflix. The movies that made us. I think
Made us. Yeah.
the guys who
Haven't seen
wrote
it.
the script for Coming to America. I don't know if it was them or it was Landis who said, "You can't go to Africa. He has to go to America." Because I think the idea was that because the joke about trying to find like a wife was like, what if he was from Queens and went to Africa?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the joke is you take him and put him in Queens, even though
the fish out of water. Yeah.
Yeah, even though you know he's supposed to come from like from a civilized, you know, place.
Right.
You know, it's not like Wakanda. It doesn't look like it has big city buildings and everything. But
right. Which they reference in the movie now, so it's part of weird canon. Yeah.
But you know, like I put it, you know, like, and also him being like entitled and not understanding, you know, regular people. That's what makes that shit funny. Like him stepping in front of a cab and having, you know, Body by Jake go, "You stupid motherfucker."
Yeah, right.
You know, are going, "Hello, my neighbors." And they're like, "Fuck you." Yes, fuck you.
You too. That's what makes it hilarious. Yeah.
You know, like.
And the fact though that they also, I mean, you know what, you gotta read Paul Hirsch's book, Once Upon a Time, a long time ago in a cutting room far, far away. You gotta read it.
Yeah.
Because he worked on Pluto Nash. And it,
good for him.
Well, he begged to differ. But it wasn't even like, and he knew going into it. It's like he read the I don't know what draft of the script he wrote, He read rather, but it was funny, right? And then the guy, oh, was it Ron Underwood? Was
Ron
the
Underwood
director?
directed that.
Yeah, and he said, "Oh no,
Why
we
do
get
I
Eddie
know
Murphy."
that?
Hey man, because you know everything. So Ron Underwood was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get Eddie Murphy on this. What? You're gonna get Eddie Murphy? This could be hilarious, right? This is gonna be really funny." So Hirsch is kind of like in the bullpen, and he gets another draft for the script, and he goes, "Wait, this isn't funny anymore." It's like, "Yeah, we made all the changes that Eddie wanted."
Aha.
And then what's really interesting is that because Paul Hirsch worked a lot with De Palma, that's how he got in, right? In the whole thing, he worked with De Palma for a long time, and then he quotes De Palma as soon as he found out that Eddie was doing all these changes, and when they were shooting the dailies they were getting back, and he saw none of this is funny. He quoted De Palma saying, "This is what happens when you let the inmates run the asylum. You can't, sort of acquiesce to whatever, no matter how big the name star is. You have to keep it together. Just because they're so huge that they're making the movie and they're getting the financing and all this stuff that it doesn't 2 plus 2 doesn't necessarily equal like 10. You have to sort of just keep with it." And eventually what happened, and this has affected his career in the 90s for a while, excuse me, but what had happened was he always does it, Hirsch does this thing where he always does the first cut of the movie. So that the director sort of says like, okay, the director kind of leaves me alone. I do the first cut of the movie, and then if he likes it, great. If not, we can work on it, right? So he did that, and I don't know if this was when there was like a production hiatus because Eddie went off to do something else, so they waited for another year after they started doing the movie. So they spent like millions of dollars building a set, pause, and then they continued maybe the next year, and then they continued spending millions of dollars just doing other stuff, right? And then when the cut was ready, and even Hirsch was like, this is not a good movie, right? He Underwood shows up, calls him at the cutting room, says, "Hey, let's go out for lunch." So the story goes, Paul Hirsch goes out into the parking lot. Underwood's still in his car, if I remember correctly. He looks very glum, down in the dumps, right? Hirsch is standing next to his car. This is how I imagine it going. He's saying, "What's wrong? Did they fire you?" And Ron Underwood just shakes his head, and then Hirsch goes, "What, did they fire me?" And then Underwood looks at him and just nods his head slowly, saying yes. That's what happened. So that's basically, how he got let go of Pluto Nash for good or for ill. I've never seen the damn thing. I remember seeing the trailer to this. I'm like, this looks like garbage. I'm not gonna waste my time on this. And who produced that? Do you remember who produced that movie?
I don't know.
Was it Avi Arad? I forgot who
I
it
don't
was.
know. Maybe,
But
maybe,
I don't know. But
Robert
anyway.
Evans. I don't know.
Yeah, fuck you.
We're gonna make the Pluto Nash. Gonna get Jack
Speaking
on
of-
this movie.
But hey, you know what? I mean that's like the is that sort of the sad sort of quintessential late '90s Eddie Murphy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because it's like
Soul Man, which I unfortunately
forgot about
saw in the
Soul
movie
Man.
theater.
oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a different kind of movie, and
Yeah.
I saw that. Okay, in my defense, when I was going to community college,
Yeah.
I had a lot of downtime in between certain classes, and there was a movie theater really close by.
Nice.
And matinees were like really cheap. So I would go see movies like all the time. So I saw a lot of shit. So yeah, that's how I got to see Soul Man. Yeah.
You should bring back your segment. Are you ever going to go back to Confessions of a Method Writer, the proper kind of show, like, as opposed to your Duelist?
Yeah. After, I mean, like one of the reasons why I've been doing the Duelist is having like double duels is because I don't want there to be 13 episodes.
Right.
By doing it in fours and kind of cutting to the chase with what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I can get it done. Let's see. There's 27 movies. The 13. It's so that becomes seven episodes, something like that. Yeah, I think it'd be 7 episodes. Why can't I do the math on that? Anyway, one of them is actually, to put it in terms of like wrestling, is actually a triple threat duel.
Yeah. Triple threat.
Yeah. It's a duel between Exodus, Robin Hood, and Gladiator. Yeah, guess which one wins that duel?
I really liked your story about when you said I think in the first confessions where you said, "Oh, I can remember every movie theater, every movie. I remember exactly where I was and which theater I was."
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really nutty that I can do that, and I actually can remember where the movie theaters are, even if they don't exist anymore. So, like where I saw E.T. is actually a DMV now in Bethpage, New York. So.
Oh shit. Ironically, you know what? I had gone to see No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home recently. That was like the last. This was like a few weeks ago. Like it was like I discovered it was like the last IMAX showing for Spider-Man No Way Home in my local theater. So I told Sabrina, like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go see this. Why not? I haven't been to the theater. Well, you know what? I went to go see Ghostbusters Afterlife, so it's not like I haven't been to the theater in forever. But I went to go see No Way Home because I'm like, okay, what's this hubbub about? I haven't seen the first two new Spider-Man films, right? And I haven't followed Marvel in quite a while. But you know what? The thing is, it's so popular. It's sort of like the Beatles, right? It's so popular that everybody talks about it, so you know where everything kind of is. You know, and you grew up with some of this shit, so you know what the stuff that kind of happens, right? So there's no spoilers really. So I went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home, and speaking of spoilers, have you seen it? Do you want to talk about it?
I didn't see it, but I do know some of the spoilers.
Right. Well,
So.
what's interesting in the viewing I had of that was I haven't seen the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, and they make it relevant. It's relevant to this movie.
Yeah, that I do know. Yeah.
But I did see the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, and I saw those in that theater where I saw No Way Home. And it sort of hit me on the way out. It was a foggy night, and it was the last IMAX showing. It wasn't late. It was just the last IMAX showing of that particular theatrical run. And it was I probably got out around like 9 p.m. And I remember leaving. I went to go see it by myself, and it was an empty IMAX theater. I sat in almost like the dead center, and it was just this foggy night leaving, and I couldn't help but just reminisce that I had gone to see the first three Spider-Mans of the 21st century, I guess, at this particular theater where I'd go and later would go to see No Way Home. Was it 15 years later, by myself, as opposed to when I'd gone to see when the first Spider-Man came out, when the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1 came out. I was a senior in high school. Right, I remember my friends and I. We drove over to that theater. We got tickets. The theater even looked newer. I mean, the AMC by me looks like kind of shit right now. Everything looks not that it looks run down, but it looks like it could be well maintained, better maintained. And I remember at the time we had gone. It was like a summer movie, right? It was I hadn't even graduated high school yet, so it was kind of on that cusp of senior year of. Post senior year summer.
Yeah.
So we had gone. My friends and I had gone to like a summer festival, like a summer a carnival, whatever it was, further down that highway. And then when we had our fill, we'd gone back up to see this movie, like the midnight movie or whatever, 10 o'clock p.m., 11, 12 p.m., whatever it was, right? And we were kind of thrilled by it. It's just interesting how life is, because I would never imagine years later sitting in that theater wanting to watch this movie, especially by myself, just thinking you know what, I'm still having a good enough time. It's still sad a little bit, but at the same time, you know what, it's how can you help it? It's just one of those things that happen in life,
Yeah.
And I don't know what bigger statement there is to that.
No, it's sometimes the more simpler personal things more powerful.
Yeah. I remember leaving in that. It was a foggy night, bro, and it was oh my god, that was first of all, it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. Now it's like I think it's almost closer to making like $2 billion worldwide. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Right? But I could
I'm
see
gonna
it.
wait. I'm gonna wait until because
It should be coming out soon on home
yeah,
home video.
Anne was
Yeah.
interested to see it because I was kind of
Yeah.
explaining to her.
Yeah.
I said to her, I was like, "You're gonna see this." I was like, "I'm gonna show you two scenes from the Andrew Garfield movies that you're gonna need to know, and it's probably gonna hit pretty well for you."
Ah.
And I show her, these scenes, and she goes, "What the fuck?" So I was like, "Don't worry, it's." Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I didn't see that. The last movie I went to go see was Licorice Pizza. I saw that on my.
How was that? Was
Yeah,
that good?
I really liked it. I saw it on my birthday.
Oh shit! True.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the movies on my birthday. It's a really weird movie. And what I mean by that is, it's like, I think Paul Thomas Anderson wanted to make a movie that it kind of follows its own structure,
Huh.
and
That's not saying much because I feel like every movie he's done, probably
well, yes,
is sort of like that.
kind of the story I had heard was that Magnolia is paced to the song "A Day in the Life" by the Beatles.
Beatles.
Because there's the whole thing that starts to go dun dun dun, and it gets to like,
Dun,
and
yeah.
then it crashes at one point,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then has to build itself back up.
Dun, dun. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And Magnolia has something that happens
Good
with that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's strangely very vignette-y. Even though it's everything is the continuity of it is wow, the word just went out, the chronological.
Oh shit, Sean.
Yeah, wow. Even though it is chronological, it's very vignette-y, which I remember always being told you can't write things that are just kind of like a disconnected spine. And I'd be like, well, what if it's just kind of like moments that happened,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they serve a bigger type of thing. I mean, I was being a little. See, oh my God, I almost talked about school.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I think I was being a little more pretentious about wanting to be a different kind of storyteller.
Right. Well, who wasn't?
I'll give you a good example. The Abyss is a disconnected spine movie. It is. There is some scenario of characters that are all going to have very disconnected adventures that just keep leading, and they don't always get resolved, and then the movie ends and you go, hey, that was The Abyss, and it was fun.
Well, speaking of the Abyss, that's comparable to what Kubrick would talk about in regards to non-submersible units. Did you hear about this? His theory of
I
filmmaking.
didn't.
Oh, you're gonna love this.
Okay.
So who was he explaining this to? I don't know if it was which screenwriter was this? One of his many his whole harem of screenwriters he'd have over his whole career. Was this? Oh, I gotta tell you, as a quick aside, I picked up for free actually because I had enough points on Thrift Books. Eyes Wide Shut, the screenplay with Trom Novell.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
totally
realize
free.
that book was written in the 20s.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you should check this out. Incidentally, somebody, I think German TV produced Trom Novell. It's on YouTube. You can watch it, and it's like beat for beat. It's like Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to talk to you about real quick. Just to.
Yeah, sure.
I saw something, I think it was on Reddit, when they were talking about Eyes Wide Shut, and how it's a movie that it might be one of his most deepest films because of what it's talking about, and that it's like the secret lives and like the underground that the elite live in, and that you don't.
Right.
and that
Sure.
when you think about things like Jeffrey Epstein, you go, "Holy shit!"
Oh yeah, easy.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
easy.
that was. I just kind of wanted to get into the. That was it.
No, we. Oh, well, I love talking about that kind of stuff. It's the stuff that makes me controversial to certain people,
Yeah.
honestly. But
Oh, the
I really
the conspiracy
the
theory
conspiracy
was that
stuff. Absolutely.
he was murdered because he made that movie.
Oh well, I
Kubrick,
mean,
not Epstein.
well, I mean, the sad part of it is though. I mean, my Kubrick death theory just happens to be the one that's I guess the most sensible. If you ever read God I think it was Stanley and I or Stanley and Me by the guy who was his driver.
Yeah.
Have you ever read that book?
No, no.
I have it. It's really I don't know. Again, I don't know how much of it is actually kind of poignant and how much of it is like bullshit. I don't. The guy's son lost his legs or whatever. So I don't think he's like in it for just to tell stories and make money. But I think if you read that book, what comes out of it's the most sort of humane portrait of Kubrick that I think I want to believe in, as it were, right? And it talks about him. It talks about like Kubrick calling him in Italy after he stopped working with him for a while and saying like Stanley, I'm watching all your films, and there's like,
I think you told me this story before.
did I tell you this story?
Yeah.
I'm watching all your films, and Kubrick goes, oh boy, okay, well a lot of people like my movies, but which ones do you tend to like? And he goes, I really like Spartacus.
I don't care for that one.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a pause, and he goes, I really don't really care for that one. But what's really sad is so he stopped working with Kubrick for a while, but then he goes back to England for whatever reason because he has family in England. The driver Emilio D'Alessandro, and he goes back to England and he hooks up with the Kubricks again, right? I guess because they're family friends or whatever, right? So they just want to hang out. And then I think it was Christiana, who by the way has painting classes. Like you can attend like painting classes like with Kubrick's wife and widow. Like for like dirt cheap in England, really. I mean, and his daughter. So you can just paint, and then you can just talk about Stanley Kubrick. And
Is that Vivian?
no, not Vivian. Katharina.
Oh, okay.
I think Catherine. So Vivian's over here. I don't know what the hell she does, but she's an exciting character in herself.
She's over here. I don't know what the hell she's doing.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm friends with her. Shit, I'd love to be like get Kubrick stories.
I haven't spoken to her in a while. Anyway, yeah.
Right. True. But anyway, so he hooks up with so he reunites with Stanley, and they had like this sort of tearful goodbye because I guess Emilio was it's not like he wasn't the only one who did like crazy shit for Kubrick, right? Because Kubrick had like all these agents all over, right, who would just do crazy shit for him. But according to him, he was like, you know what? It was kind of like he didn't think that they would see each other again, and it was kind of nice. And he goes, well, you know what? Why don't you help me out with Eyes Wide Shut, because I'm actually getting this one off the ground. I am giving to Spielberg because I can't really do it. I'm producing that one. So he's like, sure, I'll help you. And he's actually appears in the movie as the guy in the newsstand. Remember when
Yes.
Dr. Bill picks up that was him. That's Emilio D'Alessandro. Now, what's really interesting, and this ties into my what I think happened to Kubrick, is that I think, honest to goodness, I think he has overworked himself. There's a scene in the book where they had to drive out to a castle. It was just him. I think it was for what they were going to do for the Shepperton. I forgot what was it called? What was the name of the mansion? The orgy mansion in Eyes Wide Shut? I forgot.
Oh,
what it was
I
called.
forget.
I know Shepperton. That's not called Shepperton. I forgot what the hell it was. Right. So they went out driving and they got a Polaroid because they wanted to do like just some set pictures or whatever. Right. So it's really poignant in the book. It's really sad too because he sees they drive off and it's like really cold. I remember, and and this Alessandro just pulls over and Kubrick gets out. It's just him. It's like he's not surrounded by entourage. It's Kubrick with like a Polaroid or whatever, and he's taking these pictures and he notices Stanley isn't moving at all. And then he goes out and he sees him. Stanley, you okay? And he goes, can we just go back home because I'm not feeling well. And he was sort of alarmed by this. Like, Stanley, go see a doctor. I'm like, no, I don't do doctors. They're stupid. They're idiots, right? So he takes him back home. They keep working on Eyes Wide Shut. Now, here's what's really interesting. They were doing editing on Eyes Wide Shut. And Emilio D'Alessandro was just doing whatever odds and ends. They're all, like, busting their ass just to get the movie done, right? And Kubrick is there editing. And there's a moment where I guess Alessandro goes, "You have to go to sleep. This is not healthy. You have to go upstairs to bed." And then the way he writes it is actually kind of it's really kind of tragic because he gets to look. Kubrick looks at him with this sort of like he was just grateful, right? It's like, oh, you know, I should go to bed. You're right, right? And I think if I remember correctly, he doesn't call him by the right name. I think he calls him by somebody else's name. He's like, who cares? He's tired. He's overworking himself, right? And then Kubrick goes to bed and then he dies. That's it. And he gets the call from Jan. Oh God, Jan Harlan. Jan Harlan. Yeah. The next day saying Stanley is dead. He's passed away. That's it. So I mean, the fact that apparently he died like 666 days before 2001, I don't know what to make of that. There can be some cult shit going on. Who knows, right? But it's, for me, it just really, that's the little that I look into it. It's like, it just feels like this guy, look, he just worked he worked his ass off on everything. Like, he gave everything to everything he did. So to me, that he just died of exhaustion it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. You know?
Yeah.
But what's really curious, though, is that in just D'Alessandro's book is strangely political in the sense that he doesn't mention certain people that have worked with Kubrick at all. Like he doesn't mention Leon Vitali at all in the book at all.
That's weird.
That's curious. That raises like red flags as huge. Like really, that's really interesting. And he doesn't mention who's that other guy who worked with Kubrick, especially. He was the one who, maybe you know the guy I'm talking about. In 2001, when they were making 2001 and they were looking for a desert, they're like, oh, we have to go to Africa to go to a desert. And this guy chimes in and he was like pushing like the tea tray or whatever. And he goes, oh, actually, no, there's a desert in England. And then Kubrick's like, what are you talking about? You're bullshitting. Like, no, there's a desert in England. I'll show you exactly where it is. And they went there to shoot like whatever, like, rear projection shit they had to shoot, right? And then
I'm just imagining, I'm like, holy shit, I'm from the Bronx. I didn't know there was.
Exactly, right? So apparently the story goes, I think, what the fuck? Farrow, Anthony Frewin, 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 Tony Frewin. And apparently Kubrick called a meeting with all his like art directing people, and he's like, I want an explanation. How is it that this kid who's serving us tea knows exactly where to find a desert in England of all places, and you guys haven't even had the audacity to even find it? You're all fired, or something like that. I don't know about that part, but he's like, Kubrick wanted answers. And when Kubrick wanted answers, come on. But so anyway, he doesn't. So D'Alessandro doesn't mention Tony Frewin. Well, no, I think he mentions Tony Frewin a few times in the book, but he doesn't mention Leon Vitali, which I thought was like really interesting, because Vitali is all over Kubrick like a pit bull and a poodle, as it were, right? Like ever since fucking like you saw Film Worker, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So he worked with Kubrick, and Barry Lyndon. Yeah. He does his own
Lord
stuff.
Lord Bullington forever.
Exactly. Right, Lord, have you with my... No, it's not him, but... Barry Soderbergh. We should make a production of that. That'd be funny shit.
Now Soderbergh would be shooting it on an iPhone.
Oh, did you see Kiki? Or whatever it is,
Kimi.
No.
I'm going to be really honest. I haven't caught up with. I used to be such like a Soderbergh nerd.
Yeah.
I haven't caught up with a lot of the movies that he's made since he came out of retirement for the 5th time. I did see the one with Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro, the crime movie that was on HBO Max, which I can't remember the name of.
I'll look it up.
But there's like the High Flying Bird. I didn't see that. The Laundromat.
He did a whole bunch of stuff lately, yeah.
Let Them All Talk, which is a movie he made with Meryl Streep. That's actually pretty damn good.
I gotta check that out.
I mean, it's like it's almost like a play, and it all takes place. Well, 90% of it takes place on a cruise ship.
I looked up Soderbergh. It's on the search for HBO Max. I have it free for a few months. I see Schizopolis come up. That was the one movie. I remember you borrowed that from Katrin, right, or something back in the day.
No, that was mine. That was mine.
That was yours. Yeah. Oh, she borrowed it from you.
Yeah,
I guess, right? Yeah. But anyway, really quick, going back to the Kubrick thing. So, So he doesn't mention Leon Vitali at all, from my recollection, which I thought was like really interesting. I'm like, why doesn't he talk about Vitali? What the hell's going on there, right? So here's the thing. So after Kubrick died, and it's like kind of like Alexander the Great dying, right? Everybody's like carving up the estate, right? And so one of the things that I guess endeared this guy to Kubrick was that he was a race car driver, right? And then he became like a driver and a transporter for like all these different people and dignitaries that that Kubrick would work with.
Yeah.
So Kubrick had bought this Mercedes built like van. Oh, that's loud, Sean. What
Sorry,
was that?
I'm grabbing a scone, and I had to open up the plastic container. I was trying to do it very softly, and it still went crack, crack.
It's not slap my eardrum. So anyway, so Kubrick got this Mercedes van that has like 1 million knobs in it. Nobody know how to work this thing. It's amphibious. It's amphibious.
Oh, that's neat.
Right? You can drive it through the water. So Kubrick, being Kubrick, is like, shit, we can use this for like transport, aquatic, whatever, right? So nobody knows how to work this thing. This guy goes, oh, I can fix that. I can work that. And it was I think it was called the Unimog. I don't know if that's exactly the right name for it, but he got this thing working. So Kubrick's like, his eyes are popping out. He's like, you can drive this? Like nobody knows how to drive this thing. Look how complicated it looks like. So him. He's like, oh yeah, if he can do it, he's very capable. So I need him, right? So I'll give him anything he wants. So after Kubrick died, right, and his estate's kind of going like all over the place, and people are coming in because he would have like. As you know, he wasn't a hermit. He would just have this incredible control over his working environment, right? And then he'd let people in, and whoever he thought was beneficial, who would prove some sort of use to him, and to his films, come into his house. So people would be coming in and out of there all the time. It was just a natural occurrence, right? This whole thing about this whole hermit bullshit is not true. And what happened was, then I think I don't know how long it was after the funeral. But this was symbolic, and again, I don't know if this was like a thing that actually happened or what. But when people were coming in and out of the estate or whatever, and they were just taking pieces of film and whatever memorabilia or whatever was happening after he died, right? There were these kids, like these no good kids that were relatives or whatever it was, that were just trashing up the Unimog. They were just jumping on it, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Hey, get out of there! Don't you have any respect for what just happened?" And they kind of gets like, "Fuck you, old man," or something like that, and they just cursed him out and just kept on doing whatever they were doing, which I thought like, okay, all right, if this is what really happened, this is an interesting insight, because I mean, you figure that this guy who was like really kind of like the film god to so many people, right? If this happened. Like what was his inner life really like? Not to be like all journalistic about it, but it's like how like you can't help but wonder. It's like and they released Life in Pictures not too long after he died and before Eyes Wide Shut came out, I believe. It was around that same time, I remember, right? 2001. No. Sorry, no. It was Eyes Wide Shut came out in like 99.
It was 99.
Right? 98, 99. Yeah. And Life in Pictures came out in 2001, I believe, which is to mark the was it 2001?
It was.
I'll look it up.
May have been, because I remember I got the Kubrick set.
The DVD set, yeah. Me too. That was yeah. Life in Pictures, Kubrick. Let me see. And I picked up that book too, by the way. 2001. Yep, 2001. That came out in 2001. So, I know that, following his death and all that, I felt like they, especially John Harlan, I guess him and his sister Christiane, I guess they wanted to PR it to the point where it's like, okay, we have to show the world that this guy wasn't some sort of rancorous, misanthropic guy, right? He was beloved by his family. A lot of people loved working with him. A lot of people didn't like working with him, right? He was a human being, so we have to sort of present this version of him that was how we saw him, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking about the pictures that you'd find of Kubrick, and you'd wonder why people would go, "He is the most intense person you've ever met." You know that one picture is bulging eyes, and he's just like.
But you know what though? Here's the crazy shit about it, right? I've read about that picture, and who knows if this is like true or not, right? But I read about that picture that he's like he directed his own like PR, of course, right? Because him being him. So can you imagine that coming back to haunt him because it was just so like like Saturnian, right? The guy with the big beard, the bulging eyes, looks kind of crazy. He's gonna eat his own young, right? In a way. He's like, how dare you? Like, how can you challenge this mastermind? That's how crazy it kind of was. But then here's what's really interesting, Sean. Is have you ever been to Wendy Carlos's website?
No.
Oh, dude, I don't even know if it's still up. I don't even know. Wendy Carlos, I know, passed away, right? She died a long time ago. She died a while back. But when her website was still up, and it might still be up, she would do a blog before there was like a blog. And Wendy Carlos is fucking brilliant. Like I've seen some clips of I think it was before, she transitioned, right? But it was, I guess the BBC shot some stuff with when she was still a guy, and it was guy's genius. He was fantastic. So he wrote this blog, and he wrote a blog when Kubrick died. Well, she wrote a blog when Kubrick died, and she goes, "Make no mistake, this guy, he was a taskmaster, and he was a master of what he did." And she says, now there's an effort to make him. This was at the time, like '99. Now there's an effort to make him seem like he was a kindly old uncle. That's bullshit. It's not how he was. Like he knows exactly what he wanted. He would work tirelessly for it, and that's who he was. And to me, he was not like that cuddly person. He was that person that was just. There was like this tone of just overbearingness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it seems like I haven't looked up into like Kubrick stuff like as opposed to like we were in school. Right, but I tried to be pretty like religious about it. Sadly, it was just kind of those things. Like, okay, let's see what people are saying about Kubrick now, and like the new like podcasts, new interviews that would come out, over the last like 15 years or so. But that was just, I mean, he's still an enigma. Maybe he's less of an enigma now, but I don't know. What do you think? I think I've been carrying on about this for a while anyway.
No, I think that he's. I think he's one of these subjects that, may have, some of it might have been constructed by himself,
Sure.
I think that in certain details kind of lead to the legend of him, like the fact that, like when he goes overseas, like he never comes back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
let's see. I guess destroying Shelley Duvall.
Right.
That's a very infamous story.
Yeah.
Which I think have you seen Shelley Duvall lately?
I had. Well, yeah. Recently, yeah.
Yeah, she ain't doing too well.
No.
Let's see. What's some other interesting things kind of lead to it? The photographs. I think
The photographs are the big ones.
the photographs don't help.
No.
There's a
you're
couple of calm photographs, or just like nice ones, like him playing chess with George C. Scott,
George C. Scott. Yeah.
or him.
The best.
Him holding a Bolex while shooting. I think it was Full Metal Jacket.
The best picture, one of the best pictures of Kubrick that I've ever seen, came and because it made him such an accessible guy. Came from Moonwatcher's memoir. It was the guy who played Moonwatcher from 2001. I think his name's Dan something or other. I don't want to say Dan Simmons, but I think that's a writer. I don't think it's the guy, right? And he took a picture of Kubrick, and Kubrick was just like, really easygoing. He was smiling. He was just kind of like, hi, what's up? I'm Stanley Kubrick. What's up? How are you? I'm Stanley. How are you? And I was like, that's the best picture. I don't see if I'm sure it's online. I've seen it online many times, but it was honestly hands down. It was like the best, human picture of Kubrick. Not the annoyed I need to make a movie. I'm a genius picture of Kubrick.
Well, I mean, to add to that, have you seen the picture of Terrence Malick for his newest movie?
No.
What is it called? The Way of the Wind. It's
Okay.
It's he basically he's making a like a passion movie, like a Jesus film.
Oh no shit.
And Yeah, like, somebody was like saying like, oh, is this movie never coming out? And they're like, dude, he only shot it 3 years ago. You have to give him time to edit it.
Yes.
Like, you don't know how
And
Melick works, do you? Come on, man, get out of here.
yeah, get out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Because
He shoots everything, and then he just cuts it down.
strangely enough, the last movie he had that came out, A Hidden Life,
Yeah.
for I think for as extensive a movie as it is, I mean, it's long.
Yeah.
Might be his longest film.
Interesting.
It's not that the runtime has anything to do with it, but I think that the movie was finished, like, filming and being edited in, like, the quickest span of time for a movie that he's made after, like, The Thin Red Line. Yeah, because I know, like, what was it, like Song to Song and Night of Cups were, like, movies that he almost shot back to back.
Yeah.
And they were, like, released over, like, a 6-year period.
Yeah.
All right, well, what's the name of this movie? It's called something.
The Way of the
The
Wind.
Way of the Wind. There's a picture of him with a donkey.
Oh, I gotta
And the
see it.
donkey is wearing a sombrero. And he looks like he's wearing like a jacket or like an overcoat, but not like a thick one. And he, I don't think he's wearing a shirt.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this it? Oh, wait. The dog. Is this it? Hold on. I gotta see this. Way of the Wind. He looks like a Jodorowsky.
Yeah, right?
Kind of. Yeah.
Have you seen the picture?
Oh my. Wait a minute. No, I'm looking for it, but I just happened upon the top cast on IMDb. Do you know who's playing Satan? This is hilarious.
No.
Mark Rylance.
Yeah. We'll see if Satan makes it into the movie.
True, but I gotta show this to you. This is hilarious. This is the way it's set up. You ready? I'm just gonna send this to you over text, because I'm surprised I didn't burst out laughing when I saw this. Here, I sent it to you. I sent you a screen grab. I'm gonna look for this. I'm gonna go look for this.
Mark Rylance, probably one of the best actors alive right now, and he's such a fucking weirdo.
Hold on. Okay, there's a donkey with a sombrero, and there's Terrence Malick looking like he's going to Bora Bora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that's that. See, Kubrick doesn't have photos like that. He's in the picture with a donkey with a sombrero.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. I'm sure you're gonna cut this shit out, but let me see if I can find that Stanley Kubrick picture that I was telling you about. But I just read the Making of AI. I found the book on interlibrary loan, because now if you try buying it, it's like $300. So I'm like, I'll look for it on the library, and no shit, my community college, like 2 miles away from me, it looks like it has a fairly good film library, like books on film, that is.
Yeah.
So amongst other things, so I was kind of impressed by that they had this, and I read The Making of AI, right? And it's this big. It looks like Stanley Kubrick holding a cane. That's hilarious. I never saw this picture before. This is probably from making Clockwork Orange. I'll take a photo of that. So I'm reading. I read this book, and I'm like, you know what? The secret of Kubrick is that Kubrick was just like he was like. How can I put this? It's like he's let me choose my words. At the time, he was so he was such a renegade at the time, right? For many reasons. But I guess like a lot of people from like the 60s and the 70s who were born in that generation, as it were, or came to maturity in that generation. I don't mean to sound like like pretentious or anything about this, right? But this is like as a passing observation I feel like I'm making at the moment, is that I feel a lot of these guys became establishment, right? They just were so good at what they did, for one reason or another, that now it seems like if you want anybody to sort of rebel against what the current status quo is, you have to sort of rebel against them because they're the ones who sort of just raise the bar a little bit higher. And now it's like, okay, how can you sort of outpace that and at the same time have your own voice? It's difficult. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I feel like there's some truth to that. I think you sort of want to pay homage, but at the same time, it's like how do you burst out from that? That's what I got from reading that AI book, because that AI book is very much like they break down the story, they break down the references, what he was trying to do with before he passed it on to Spielberg, the storyboards, the science. The tech behind possibly building, a robot child, as it were, and then going into a little bit deeper than that. And it's worth the read, I'd say. It sort of gives you a whole new kind of like vision, a point of view on who this guy was. It's something that if you just stick to like film criticism and interpretations of his films that you don't get if you read this book, and it's sort of like the official book on it because it's published by John Harlan. Spielberg wrote the foreword to it. It has like officialdom all over it. It's like, okay, really, this is like this isn't like coming from like some guy on the internet. This is from the family, as it were. Yeah. So check that book out. I'm still looking for this picture of Stanley Kubrick. It's around.
Oh, yeah. Before I forget, I wanted to tell you just to kind of like my writing project, the thing that I was doing prior,
oh yes,
which
please.
I don't know if I actually came up with a name for it. Oh, I had a really bad working title, and I think I have another bad working title for it. It was just called Token Freedom.
Oh, I never heard of that. No.
Yeah, because I think I don't know. I don't even remember what the other bad title I had was. So, the computer that we normally use at the house is it's this Apple that we had gotten 2 years ago.
A laptop?
Yeah, it's a laptop.
The laptop that I saw. Yeah.
It's like an. You know what? You might have seen it when you were here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I messed around with it.
Yeah. So that's the one that I actually use when I was making and Go We Know Not Where.
Sure.
That's not the computer that I write on. I actually use an older laptop, which is actually a legacy Apple MacBook that Anne got like 10 years ago.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And it has a battery issue.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to... this is the great thing. Oh, crap. Oh, it's got like a...
My laptop has that battery issue. It's probably the same kind of laptop, Mac laptop.
So she had gotten all these tools online to replace the battery.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. And the tools stripped one of the screws. So now she has to take it to a specialist.
Oh, fuck.
Because you can't take it to Apple because Apple's going to go, this is obsolete. No.
Yep, exactly.
So she has to take it to a specialist nearby, which maybe, I can't. The kids are home this week. I can't drop it off. But I need to get this fucking computer fixed because I have to get on my like revisions and smoothing out of it. I mean, it's done. Yeah. It's written. I got to add a little bit more color to the action description for certain parts of it. But I mean, it's done. And I'm like, very excited about it. I don't want the
good feeling.
Yeah,
that's a good feeling.
I don't want the energy and the inertia of it. Like, I still feel good about it. It's probably, I mean, somebody could probably go, wow, man, this is just a lot of screaming.
No, but you know what? I mean, look, it's a struggle to finish anything. I know that for a fact, and it's hard enough. Oh, there's a picture of. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, but there's a picture of like. There's a picture of like Kubrick, hugging Marlon Brando. I'll send you that too. It's so funny. I think that was One-Eyed Jacks.
Oh,
it's hard enough. It's hard enough to finish anything, right? But I mean, especially me, because that's just for me. I mean, I come from like I guess the learning the Kubrick school, which is like you work on it until you get it right, and like the guy said in the Directors Guild of America award, right? And he got the was it the D.W. Griffith thing?
Yeah.
Right, that one thing. He's like there are few joys in life that rival the feeling of. I know what he was talking about films. When you get something right, like if it's a creative project, you just get correct. It's just not just right, but it's correct. It feels good. It feels like, you know what, this is what all that hard work was for. That's what it was. And I commend you. That's all. It's bullshit though. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Because and it's like just trying to bring the baby into like, this world.
Yeah.
I think for my daughter, it feels like Sabrina had an easier time bringing her into this world, as opposed to me bringing in some of the shit I'm trying to do, that we're trying to do, right? Because it's like, there's like a stack of like notes that I'm gradually working through, right? This thing I just finished that I'm kind of like touching up, it's called The Missing Gateway. And it's funny because when you read the damn thing, you're like, wait, is this what he's really talking about? And the answer is, yeah, I think so. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I work, dude. I edited this thing down from, it was like 10 pages. Well, at first I handwrite everything, right? And then I type everything out, single spaced, size 12, font. And this thing came out to be 10 pages, right? And then I was like, okay, you know what? This has got to be cut down. So now I'm down to like 3 pages, and the essence of it is there. It's still there, still there. A lot of it was just deleted. You know how the whole thing about killing your darlings? It's not just killing your darlings. I think it's a misnomer a little bit. It's like the darlings are there. It's just that, how do you get to see the darlings without thinking that you run them over or you leave them behind? Right? They're still there. They're still there. And then I don't know what else to say. It's like that's where the magic of editing comes in, because you do a good edit and you're like, okay, this still works. It's not that you don't lose anything. You just lose a lot of like the excess. And when you have something that's sort of trimmed down, it's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to go into your writing a little bit more, or just not really? No.
I don't mind it. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I gotta tell you, because it's so different from anything I've really done. I think that's what's kind of exciting about it. I remember the initial idea was that it was all going to take place in one location.
Yeah.
And I changed that up because I kind of wanted to let the air in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was also going to have it. It was what's the movie? Interestingly enough, he just passed away. The movie Draft Day, which Ivan Reitman directed.
You're right. Oh God, yeah, we should talk about that.
Which is like a movie that takes place all in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And is a lot of like people talking in rooms, which is the best way I like to describe this script. There's a lot of people just talking in rooms, getting into arguments, making deals, betraying each other, and I was like, I think because of the fact that there was so much, say, fighting going on, I was like, all right, I gotta let the air out a little bit and let this take place, over a course of like, a certain amount of days, or like, it's an interesting question when you watch a movie, how much time do you think has gone by when you're not exactly, well, best one for me was when I talked about LA Confidential. The book is like 10 years.
Holy shit.
The movie, because I had this, I asked somebody, I was like, how long do you think takes place in LA Confidential, the movie? Yeah, I was like, for me, it feels like just shy of 2 years.
Interesting.
And they go, I never thought about it. No. Like they're trying to think like, what happens, what goes on. Like, yeah, okay, maybe. I don't know. But, I was thinking like, if you were going to have like this film, how long does this script, how long does this script take place over? Is it a day, a week, 2 weeks? And I was like, I think I came up with the idea that it is something along the lines of about 2 weeks. Or a little less. I'm trying to remember now. It's something like that. But then I had run into a problem. I actually spoke to Anne about this because I have a lot of like vague names for locations. And I'm coming into a pronoun problem when I call it the pronoun problem, but what it is like I didn't want this is not the fucking Hunger Games, so this doesn't take place in Panam, not Pan Am, this is
Penam.
Penam, is it Penam?
Penam.
Yeah. It's like, this is, but also it's not science fiction. So I'm like, I don't want to make like a fictitious world, but I'm like, okay, but I can't use these. You get into like too much of a weird noun problem with things like talking about your district, this place, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
your constituency, or when you're not saying that, it's like, the people of your district or your area, your state,
Right, citizens.
and you're
right,
like, okay, dude, you gotta give me an idea of what we're talking about here. So instead of saying things like New York, I could come up with a, something that is in place for that word. Anne said, call it fucking Amsterdam. I don't know.
yeah, right.
She's like, did you call it the Big Apple? I'm like, no, I'm not a douchebag, Anne, right?
Douchebag.
Because, the name of one of the places is called Sansara.
Yes.
And, with the capital of Sansara is Pingu. Or Pingo. And do you know what Pingu is?
No. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, Pingu is a.
Please go in.
Hold on, I'm gonna send you a picture.
Oh, fuck you!
You're
Really?
gonna love
God
this.
Damn it.
You'll like this.
I'm standing by because you know me. I'm looking for this. I'm still looking for this picture of Kubrick. This picture of Kubrick is impossible to find. You get entire pictures of his family, but you can't find this one damn picture of him doing 2001. Pingu. Oh God, here we go. Okay. Sean, what is this?
It's a show for kids.
Well,
Okay. But
daughter.
with a penguin, he speaks in his own language. There's an awesome episode of Pingu when he's acting like a little bastard, and his mom starts spanking him. And he like walks away holding his fanny, going.
Where is this on? Is this on Disney?
It was on. It's on Amazon Prime. So.
Oh, shit. Can I have that? Well, now I know what to show Sabrina. Like, okay, we're gonna show this to our daughter now. It's hilarious. Okay, all right, that's good. That's good. I can't wait to show this to her. Oh my God, I'm gonna wake her up right now. Like, hey, do you want to see Pingu? She's like, honey, not now.
Anyway, I thought the name sounded a little exotic anyway, so I was like, Pingu. We'll call it Pingu.
Yeah, right.
So I have a definite name for this place. I talk a lot about geography of it. So unless you're kind of a moron, I think sometimes you kind of understand that this is like a place in, the Caribbean or Gulf of Mexico area. So obviously the other country has got to be the United States. If it's going to be like, but then I say something like, it's 90 miles off the coast. I'm like, what is this, Cuba? Well,
Yeah, exactly.
It's all of it,
Well, yeah, but the thing is now it's like, but you're working in a level of suggestion. It's like, okay, what in analogs, like what can we compare this to that would communicate it to people when they read it?
Yeah,
basically, right? Yeah.
And we have like the state of shithole, and that's supposed to be Florida. No.
Controversy. Sean Nolan courts controversy.
I don't know. Florida's weird for me.
I've only been to Florida once, and I gotta tell you, it kind of reminded me because of course it definitely got the Spanish vibe because I've been to Spain a few times, and going down there, I'm like, okay, you know what? I could see the I don't know the influence, but the climate's very reminiscent to certain parts of Spain there, obviously. I guess the lower part, especially the southern part of Spain, but I kind of dug it. Like, except for when we went to Miami, we drove from Tampa because we had to go to a wedding in Tampa, and then we drove from Tampa to Miami, and it's hilarious because once you get into Miami, all the prices go up way high.
Oh yeah,
and we're like, holy shit.
See, I've only been to Miami once, and I was not there for very long.
Yeah, we spent like the weekend there.
Oh, I need a drink here. So not to rag on Florida. I've been to Florida quite a few times. My problem with Florida is that there are nice parts of Florida which are kind of a little more of the attractive touristy type stuff.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of I know that it's like this everywhere, but there's a lot of low. I don't even want to say low.
You don't want to say white.
I almost said low class. It's like, what are you flying today? First class or
low class steerage?
What the hell they call it? It was in the movie Soul Plane. They're like first class, middle class, and low class.
Soul Plane. I haven't seen that. It's hilarious.
Low class. I like low class. And low class looks like you're in a bus. This is on the plane. They have the things hanging from the ceiling, and yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So Florida has I don't know, these areas are very depressed looking and shanty towns. You'd be it's fucking depressing.
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
And there's a lot of white trash.
Yeah.
And my whole thing about it is that southern Florida is a little more interesting because it has more identity to it. Whether it be from the Cubans that came up and the, being in Miami and such, or you have, the people that come from some of the other islands, and they give it some flavor.
Yeah, right.
But the problem is, you start getting above, you get closer to Orlando, and suddenly you're in Georgia.
Well, interesting.
And Florida is the South Florida is basically New York and Cuba. That's, it's not just Cuba, but you know what I mean. South Florida is a lot of people from New York and New Jersey live in South Florida.
Yeah.
And North Florida is the South, and not like the romantic South. We're talking. Places like Tallahassee and Daytona are really trashy places.
Interesting.
Jacksonville is notorious. It seems like it would be where Gummo takes place.
You're going to act like a man.
So, I'm ragging on Florida. Plus, Florida has a lot of weird legislation that just makes it seem like... my joke about it is, has your son only killed one person? Well, why don't you move to Florida we don't do any background checks, so he'll get employment a lot easier. And I'm not joking. They actually have a certain kind of legislation for a no look back.
Interesting.
So for certain felonies, it doesn't. You don't even have to report it when looking for employment.
You're making Florida sound like the Australia state.
It is. I think it is Australia. Might be Australia.
There's some good that comes out of Australia. There you go.
Yeah, kangaroos.
Yeah. And Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah. And Izzy's Koala World.
And young Einstein.
Yes, young Einstein.
Yeah, Yahoo Serious. But no, serious though.
I showed Anne
a great movie.
I showed Anne a clip from young Einstein. I was like, when he's in the up in the where is it? They have like an apple orchard or something that he lives on.
Yeah.
And the Tasmanian devils.
Devil. Yes.
I'm like, you got to see this shit, Anne. And she goes, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, that's a Tasmanian devil.
There's a lot of moments like that in that movie.
He puts suds in beer and like a.
You know. And he ends up marrying Mary Curie.
Yes.
That was like,
that's right.
That's like That's good. Actually, I used to discover not too far from where I live. There's a bust dedicated to Mary Curie. Funny, it was so random. It was in this park nearby. We were going for a walk, and then sure enough, there's what I said to Serena, like, what is that? And we get closer to it, like it's a statue of Marie Curie. Like, oh, no way. And I think it was just I don't even know if she even like did any like work, because it was in front of this brick house.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, wait, did she actually do any work here? Like, should we be concerned? And it's like, nah. It was just like an in memoriam of Marie Curie.
Yeah.
But
I once heard if they ever did a Mount Rushmore of New Jersey, it would have like Springsteen, Danny DeVito, and the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, you're missing Gandolfini. Gandolfini's got to be there. And Sinatra. Don't forget about Sinatra. He's got to be there. Yeah.
But I thought the Toxic Avenger was funny because it's a fictitious person.
Yeah, of course it is. Like, oh, you mean the Toxic Avenger? Yeah. The guy who lives on like, yeah. Oh, man. No. But I mean, anyway, look, it's like, like, hey, you know what? We're not trying to badmouth anybody. It's just, it's in the course of human conversation, these things happen. So anyway, if anybody's listening, we get offended by whatever, go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. It happens. I mean, you almost can't use language without offending somebody. Like if you're going, it's impossible to have. Well, I won't say impossible, but it's like I guess people would require that in order to not be offensive to anybody, requires a level of diplomacy that I can't strive to have at the moment because my brain is tired right now. So I can't do that. I mean, I'm going back to the whole like white trash thing. I mean, who cares, man? Like, it doesn't really matter. But it's like, you guys are fucking anti. Like, no, we're not. We're just chill, dude. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's like we're just two guys who are friends. We're just talking about shit. It's like, I'm sure you can relate to that. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh man, but Florida's interesting though. We spent like a few days in Miami, and it wasn't bad. It was expensive as shit though, but it wasn't bad. I remember it was very windy, it was very cloudy, and then people who told me who live there saying, yeah, this happens all the time. We rarely get like sunny days here, and things were just like kind of we actually, you know what, we went during October for weddings, I believe, so no wonder it was probably like hurricane season or just the tail end of hurricane season.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
When the hell did I go? It was October. I was down. I went down there for the funeral. You went there recently.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day, actually. Like, how you mentioned that.
Oh, I had to mention this. Some of my viewing history lately. I've been watching a lot of documentary or documentary series.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was the We Need to Talk About Cosby, which was on Showtime, which was very fascinating.
Interesting.
Let's see. Also, what is it? Allen versus Farrow.
Oh yeah. Did I tell you I read his book actually? I read his Apropos of Nothing.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I read it the last couple of months. It was very good.
Oh, I've heard it's very well written.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I didn't. That whole section, pretty much is like I don't know what the hell this woman's talking about. And you know what's really funny was that we just finished watching on Criterion Channel Death on the Nile.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mia Farrow in that, and like after reading, Apropos of Nothing, I'm like, oh, I could kind of see it. I could kind of see it.
Yeah.
So this documentary is it kind of like can you go into it a little bit? Because
Well,
here's
the thing. Let me get back to what the hell happened. Okay, so I remember hearing about certain accusations and such, years ago, and for years and years, there was always kind of the more improper way that him and Sun Yi got together. It was very odd.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it was odd, but whatever. It was.
Yeah.
I found that something very interesting. In the state of New York, if he had actually adopted Sun Yi, because who was it? It was two of the children. He actually. Let's see. There was the daughter who accused him, and then Ronan is like his biological son.
Yeah.
Which
was named Satchel. His name was
Satchel
before it became Roman. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's Satchel Paige.
I didn't. See, I was curious. I didn't actually know that, and I was like, I was like Satchel. His name was Satchel.
Yeah. He named him after Satchel Paige.
I remember he makes the joke about the fact that he looks like he looks like Frank Sinatra, but it's like
right.
When you see his older brother, you go, oh, obviously this must come from the Farrow side of the family because he looks like his older brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the joke. He's got blue eyes. He kind of has like the, certain kind of, facial structure. But whatever. I mean, my daughter looks like me and doesn't look anything like my wife.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, the documentary though, kind of I guess there's a lot of things I never heard about the case that was being brought against him some nearly 30 years ago in Connecticut.
Yeah.
That I was like, that's interesting. The fact that they had all this information, this testimony, and these corroborating witnesses to certain events, and the only reason why the DA didn't go through with it was they didn't want the girl to have to go through trial.
Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that in the book.
And I was like, that's and then I don't know, some of these things when you kind of find out that a lot of his scripts get rewritten. And when they get by him, but when they get rewritten, the age of the women get younger and younger. And they have archives. Like his scripts are in an archive of one of these universities. I can't remember which one, but you can find all these revisions to it. At one point, is like it's always an older man and a woman, and she's 23, and that's scratched out. And says 19 scratched out, and says 17. And there's a pattern of it.
Right,
It's
right,
interesting
right.
that Annie Hall is the last movie where there isn't like a real implication of him as a main character doing this, because they have
Hmm.
there's like versions of other movies like scripts
Mm-hmm.
where maybe they didn't cast the person young, but it was written that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, this is weird crossover, weird, pedo shit, right? Because, okay, so check this out. I read Polanski's autobiography, right? Published in like '84.
yeah,
And then I read, apropos of nothing recently. This was published like last year. And then I read this Paul Hirsch book, right? So, it, so there's a weird overlap. You can't help it, right? Because I mean, given the circles that these guys go, like work with in the industry, quote unquote, right? So here's the thing about the Polan. Have you ever read Polanski's autobiography?
no, no, no.
So here's the thing. So I sort of got turned on to this by Tarantino, because Tarantino, I guess when he was being like pressed into going into Polanski and going into the situation with him, and then in Tarantino, kind of just chomps at the bit and says, "Well, if you read Polanski's book, you'd know that this girl that that he made the moves on, even though she was this age, she was really advanced for her age." I'm like, okay, bro. Okay, first of all, let me read this book, then I'll talk. Right, so I go ahead and I read the Polanski autobiography. Got it again from the community college that's nearby, and you know what? There's a lot of harrowing parts to the book, and especially when he's growing up, especially during the war in Poland, right? It's incredible, right? The stuff that he went through, and I know he worked a lot of that into the Pianist, amongst other films, right? But once he gets going with his career, and he would just casually mention later on in the book about, maybe it's the Europeanness of it, right? But he just mentions some of the quote unquote amorous encounters he has, and a lot of that's how he found out about Natasha Kinski. Like, was it Natasha Kinski?
Well,
Was it? I don't remember if it was Natasha Kinski or somebody else, but he had, and not to be salacious about any of this stuff, right? But the overlap happens where it's like, okay, well, he doesn't try to hide the fact that he's attracted to really young women, and when remember, this is like in the '60s, '70s, so take it for what you want, but in regards to was it Natasha I think it was Natasha Kinski. It had to be, because I get confused. Tell
is
me.
he talking about her when they were making tests, or
No, not just Tess. No. He talks about when he hooked up with her.
yes? I didn't know if that was
Right. No, yeah,
okay.
he hooked up with her, and he didn't know who she was, and how old she was, and then of course it was that moment like, what? You're only 15,
Yeah.
you know. And then of course that connects with oh well, that's how I got started with her modeling career and because I took pictures of her and published in Vogue and whatever it was, right? So there's that, and later on when the shoot with, what's her name?
Charlotte
That girl
Lewis.
later, was it? Who's Charlotte Lewis? Was that the girl that that wasn't the girl? Was it the girl?
No. I was gonna say
No.
no. There was an alleged encounter while they were making Pirates.
No. Actually, the book doesn't really go into pirates that
Yeah,
much.
I don't think he probably would talk
Yeah,
about
I
Pirates.
wouldn't think so.
At all.
No, but he talks about going to see prostitutes when he was down in his luck. He couldn't find work really, post war and post film school and all that. He's trying to, but I think before Fearless Vampire Killers and all that stuff, when he was still trying to get that made. I mean, there's a lot of interesting anecdotes. You should check these books out, because it's a lot of fodder for our kind of imagination, our kind of our interests, that kind of thing. But then when it crosses into post Chinatown, and the thread I've been running with the past year was been oh well, cults, and then Manson, right, and then because of the Tarantino comment, I was like, okay, well, I got to check out the Polanski book. And when it goes into that section with oh shit, I cannot remember her name. Pretty much is like, yeah, he was totally like, you know what, yeah, I was giving her a little bit of wine, and then, you know, I forcibly kind of like, you know, we talked, and she was very frank about her sexuality and her sex life or whatever. And then, yeah, I just sort of threw myself at her, and, you know, we did it. And Angelica Houston showed up looking for Jack Nicholson. Because it was at Jack Nicholson's house.
Yeah.
And then when he dropped this girl off at home to her, you know, her parents, they were kind of like weirded out. And then sure enough, you know, the next day or whatever, that night was like, oh, yeah, he was intercepted by the police. Like, yeah, we have a warrant for your arrest, sir. You know? And then it just, you know, it's curious because it's like, okay, how much of this is like how much of this is a serious problem amongst people who are of a certain, you know, quote unquote social class that are like, you know what, I don't care how old she is, I just want her. It doesn't matter. You know, I'll be careful and so forth. But I mean, there's that anecdote of Oliver Stone. Did you hear about this one? About Oliver Stone going to speak at a college or whatever, like years and years ago. And, you know, he was like leaving in a limo, pulls up in front of some girl, right? Some like, you know, maybe freshman in college. You know, they start to talking, and then he goes, "How old are you?" And she goes like, "Oh, I'm like, you know, I'm like 18, 17." He goes, "Oh, jailbait. Let's get out of here." And he's leaving. Who knows how? So I mentioned the overlap, right? Because, you know, obviously, you know, Polanski worked with Farrow. And here, it's just the strange threads. Like, there's nothing, like, I don't remember anything salacious about Farrow aside from what was going on with her and Frank Sinatra at the time, right? But, I mean, it's so strange because then you read the Woody Allen book afterward, right? And then his portrayal of Mia Farrow was like this, like because this woman, I think part of it is that the insight that he has about her is that this woman has been burned so badly in the past that she just became this ultra protective person. And because of that, he didn't really according to Alan says, you know, she really didn't see him as like the love of her life or anything like that. It was more like, you know what, I have a good thing going with this guy. You know, he's writing me movies, he's getting me work. You know, he lives nearby. You know, like him and the children seem to be getting along. Maybe we'll get married. And she's, I guess, from what I remember, he was saying like he was always trying to pressure him to marry her. And he's like already been married. By that time, he's been married like twice in his life. He didn't want to get married again at the time. And he was also married to Andre Previn, the composer.
Yeah.
So that's when, you know, that's where the Sunni Previn part comes in.
Yeah.
And that whole thing was just kind of like, you know, it's like Mommy Dearest. It was like, you know, she's like a monster behind the scenes to some of these children apparently.
Well, that's what he said.
Well, that's what he said. Yeah. Well, that's what also Sunni said to him as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, you know, like what the hell.
But none of the other children agree with that. With the exception of Moses, who, when you find out why Moses did it, you go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense."
Well, I don't know. Well, according to
Moses' entire his lifestyle and his education was all paid for by Woody Allen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And he had originally said some pretty nasty things about him. And then he retracted it. And you go, well, why do you retract it? Oh, well, you know, it's like the same deal that he made with Ronan. You know, he said, you know, if you, so, it's, I don't know. All I can tell you is that there seems to have been a weird trend. Some things that I just didn't before. It just seemed like it was like kind of a he said, she said, and then when you go,
yeah,
it's starting to sound like he said, she said, and he's not saying the right things.
Well, that's sort of like that was like sort of the weird red flag before I read his book years and years ago. Who was the daughter? That I know we have Ronan, but who was the daughter? What was the daughter's name? I forgot.
Crap, I forget.
Mia Farrow's daughter.
Yeah.
Anyway, when she came out like,
Dylan?
a few years ago, Dylan. Yeah. When Dylan came out a few years ago, like, and she had this, the harrowing story to tell. The only response that Alan had at the time was like, my lawyers advised me to say this, that, and the other, which was like, oh my God, really? That just feels like, that's just like that's almost as if you're saying I'm taking the fifth, but I also kind of did it, but I don't want to say I did it. That's what it read like to me at the time, right?
Yeah.
And then reading the book, I'm like, okay, if this is where he's coming from now, I'm like, I kind of see where he's going at it, but at the same time, it's like he said, she said for me at this point. But I didn't see the thing though.
Well, okay. One of the things about it was that he seemed to have an ongoing trend of always sticking his face in because he adopted her, so his adopted daughter's lap.
Yeah. Right.
Or putting suntan lotion and such, like way too high on her legs when she wasn't wearing any pants, and kind of keeping his hands in places. And
right.
When he was asked about this by Farrow, or even I think it was this therapist, he said, he doesn't know how to deal with children, so he doesn't really know where the boundaries are of acting with a child.
Huh. Interesting.
Which is also not good to hear.
No.
There's some other things. Here's my
right.
thing. The guy has been kind of ruined on me, but here's the thing. 2 of his movies are ones that actually 3 of them. 3 of his movies I absolutely love. Mm-hmm. And all 3 of those movies predate these events.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm separating the man from the art.
You know what? That seems to be the trend I hear a lot. It's like you separate the people from the art that they make.
And I have another good reason for doing that. Yeah. Woody Allen didn't make these movies alone.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. We were sitting in the diner, we were talking
There
about
are people that work on them.
Yeah.
There are actors that act in it. It is a collaborative piece of craft and art. So just completely throwing the baby with the out with the bathwater. My other thing was I said this to Anne like years ago. I said, because I also like there's a bunch of Roman Polanski movies that I like. And it's common knowledge. Like, it's not even something he denied of what happened with this young woman. But here's my thing. Prior to me even being able to see a Roman Polanski movie, the guy was still making films.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Whatever. The filmmaking society at large, whoever, allowed me to be able to watch these movies and fall in love with these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, shit, man. Like, why was I allowed to let this happen? And I can't I can't forget that I've seen a movie like Chinatown or Rosemary's Baby, The Tragedy of Macbeth, which it's really good.
Funny enough, I was when I was driving earlier, I was listening to some guy talking about just that on a YouTube live stream about his version of Macbeth. Yeah. But the thing is, though, it's also like how much of this is like, I'm talking about like the pedophilia, basically, right? If you were going to call it anything, is just that's a question that's been on my mind for a long time. It's just been not to the point where it's like, the whole Nietzschean thing where it's like if you stare into the abyss, the abyss stares back at you. Because I do consider the abyss. I think there's something like just having a daughter. I know there's sort of an innate innocence, right, that we're born with, right? Maybe not everybody, right? But I'm thinking a lot of us have that, right? We're so human, So it's not like we don't like we're not like it's like we're completely clean as it were, right? But at the same time, I feel like there is innocence there, and it's just for me, it's just evil. Where it's like when you're a person, and you want to for lack of a better term, predate on these children without them even knowing what it even is. That's just sort of like it's like sort of like the heights of just even terror almost. I was crossing the street. This is like shortly after Satya was born, and we were like going for a walk, and it was nighttime. It was like late summer, and we almost got we almost got ran over, and the baby was in the stroller, and I yanked her out of the way at the last possible second, or else it was going to be serious. And I was just this guy who was just driving this car. I just fucking unloaded on him, Sean. I was just it's like, you know what? Yeah, it could have been a tragedy. It could have been an accident. But the thing is, there's something that comes with being a child, right? That we, yeah, you know what? I don't care if this is old fashioned or whatever conservative. I don't really care. I think this is sort of innate humanity, where it's like when you have a child, they don't know, they don't fucking know. They don't know if they're going to be killed at any moment, right? But the thing is, for us, we have a responsibility to protect them, right, from these dangers, that things that just feels like abhorrent, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to things like this, it's like, here's where this kind of stuff is wrong, because the child doesn't have an even remote notion of what sex is, or even consent, for that matter, and even if they did, it's like, for me, again, it's like, looking back on like my childhood and things that may or may not have happened to me when I was growing up, I'm like, no, there's got to be a boundary. You just can't have somebody like try to finagle themselves into your life one way or another under one guise of friendship or another, and saying like, oh, this is fun, why don't we do this? Let's play a game, and you have no idea what this person's talking about because you're sheerly innocent. You're like, sure, whatever. You just sort of go along with it. You need somebody to say, no, this is wrong. This has to stop. And the way that society, not to make this a whole like spiel, right? But the whole society, the way that it's going now, and one can say this is quote too liberal, and you see the evidence of this. It's present, right? People will want to say like, no, we have to legalize this because this is just another way of this is just another kind of lifestyle choice. Well, then how does that work? And this is where it goes into Kubrick again a little bit, funny enough, or not so funny enough, because it goes into AI. And I don't want to make this about like Kubrick at all, but he does go into this kind of sordid stuff, like really perverse kind of choices, let's say. Right, where people can, and it crosses over into Philip K. Dick territory and Blade Runner as well, where it's like, okay, what can we make that'll serve the needs of a class of people that can just be like, I don't know, that they have a certain itch that's now legalized, as it were, and now we can make it into the open. I mean, I can compare it to the beginning of like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, where I don't know if have you read that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, remember the first chapter was it Deckard talking about the pets? How he's like, well, we can't really get really real animals anymore. We have to get like the fake pets, the electric sheep, right?
Yeah.
We have to get it's just getting these fake animals in order to compete with your neighbor who also has a fake animal, but yours has a better. It's rarer. It's more special in its artifice. Right, as opposed to the other person's, it's insane, and the whole thing about electric sheep, by the way, is it's I don't know. I mean, pardon me if this sounds something that it's too late for this kind of shit or whatever, right? But it's also like a double entendre because it's like the whole thing about being sheep dip and sheeple and so forth. It's like the whole thing about psychopaths, being the wolf in sheep's clothing, as it were. Well, can you imagine like a psycho guy, right? If we can liken pederasty or pedophilia to psychopaths, let's say, right? can you imagine them saying like, hey, if I have a robot child, really, they're not really worth much of anything. And I can have my way with this child any old time I want. But it's a fake child. It's not really a real child. I can just do whatever I want with them. Surely, is this something that you can blame me for? I'm just serving out my natural needs. Now, it goes into very tricky territory because it's like, okay, wait a minute. Well, what is the ethical code here? What do we do? What are we actually saying? And then, I mean, not to get too philosophical about it, right? But then it goes vis-a-vis like, okay, how do we do this in regards to film? And this is where it goes into Kubrick territory because it's like, okay, that was sort of the subtext with AI a little bit, because I know with AI it was more like the overt adventure of it all, right? The urge to becoming the real boy, the idea of wanting to, what is real, right? Mm-hmm. And how does it transfer from, okay, like, mommy, I'm real. I love you, mommy. These are things that he's programmed to say, but at the same time, there's that kind of like notion. It's like, wait, is this really real? Actually, the burden's on you. Do you really believe him or not? And if you don't believe him, does that make you less human, or does that make you more human? It becomes very treacherous. It's like how do you manage this, right? And then there's that whole section with the flesh fair, which is another double entendre. Right? It's like how do you and Brendan Gleeson's character in that. Remember him?
Oh yeah,
he was in that. And he's like, we want to purge ourselves of artificiality, right? And then Kelly Joel Osment is about to be burned to death with the acid. There you go, burned to death. Is it really dead? Who knows? It's like. I mean, again, I don't want to sound like. I hate to sound like I'm being like, you're like, oh, like the, I'm professing something, right? But at the same time, it's like it's really, this troubles me deeply, because it's like, okay, it feels like more and more. There's any sense of conviction is like the sense of any sense of conviction at all is something for the past. There's nothing that is adhered to regards to having any notion of anything anymore. It feels like the looser you are with anything, with your morals, with your definitions of things, is fair game, which in a way is going to be part of a rule set which innately violates itself. Right? It feels like that'll just go out the window. So in the other case, it's like, how free can you be?
Okay.
Anyway, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here on this whole the deeper subjects on this sort of stuff. I hope I didn't lose you with any of this.
No.
But that kind of stuff for me, it sincerely troubles me, because it feels like there's a lot of stuff like talking about throwing the baby off with the bathwater. No pun intended, because we're talking about children, right? But at the same time, it's like it feels like some people are way too eager to just say, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Cancel. We have to start from scratch. I was like that for a little bit, but I feel like at the same time, I wasn't super overboard with it. I was kind of like, there's a lot of fucked up shit.
Well,
and how do you even? Yeah.
My thought behind it is, as far as like, there are. All right. This is actually an interesting example, because it actually goes towards something that happened to me last year. Last year? Yeah, it was last year. Now, this job I had a boss who didn't. There was a lot of things I disagreed with him about. For one thing, I don't think he got the point that I didn't want to talk about who I was voting for in the election. Even after I said to him, I don't feel like telling you.
Right.
He would continue talking to me about it.
Pushing
and just keep pushing me.
Yeah.
And then would start bringing up things about like movies that he saw on like Netflix, and describing things from the movies, and I'd be like, man, like you're being a little like insensitive.
I see.
I really don't want you like I was almost one of those, like, I wish you would just kind of stop talking to me about certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And, for me, I was like, this is, you're giving the world exactly the reasons why there are women that don't want to be working for people like you. It's like, and you're still doing it right now. And just because I'm a guy, that's why you're talking to me like this.
True.
Because you're not allowed to talk to the women who work below you
Like
this
that.
way.
Yeah, right. That's disheartening.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it was a little, like, it was getting a little weird because I'm not, you know, like, you and I, we don't really talk about like politics and things like that. And I don't think
We
it's.
flirt with it.
What's that?
We flirt with it, like
Yeah.
maybe on the fringes.
But the thing is, like, it's not something that kind of defines like like the dynamic of our friendship.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've always kind of described myself as like, when certain thing, it's kind of like the whole thing about pornography is like, I'll know it when I see it. When certain things happen in life or in the world, I think that on a case-to-case basis, sometimes you read about it or you listen to it, and maybe you do your own research and you judge it, and on that, instead of just making blanket statements of just going blah, which it's interesting because like I have like family members that kind of like react that way to certain things, and when this is going to sound really funny because I have a lot of family members who are ultra conservative. I am not. But with that being said, many years ago, I was probably closer to seeming like, I don't know, a libertarian. I don't know.
No, I hear you.
Now, here's the thing, though. One of my family members mistook certain things I talked about as me being like, a real like far-right, ultra-conservative, like, and started talking to me about really racist things and very sexist things. And I was like, I don't agree with anything you said. Of course, that's not how the conversation went. Again, I'm kind of going off going off the on a tangent here, but
yeah, right.
Man, this was just from me bringing up seeing docs and documentaries about.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say. Then I was watching the documentary about the leaving Neverland. And I was like, so
there you go.
3 documentaries about like, non-consensual sex or whatever.
Yeah.
Although from what it sounds like, it's Bill Cosby really racked up a nice number. Yeesh.
Oh.
Jeez, my earpiece won't stay on. Yeah, anyway, I guess my biggest point is that like I sometimes find that when people talk exclusively about politics, they don't talk about anything with their true soul, and they become very superficial because they block themselves off.
Interesting.
And I am my wife and I we're church-going people, but there's a lot of things that we disagree with in our own religion.
Right.
But at the same time, there's certain values that we keep, and it's one of those things where like we get into certain discussions or arguments, and what I find interesting is that a lot of times I have family members or friends that just misquote things or come to conclusions about things, and they don't want to know anymore. It's like brah, brah, brah. It's like when I was in high school, one of my friends was really into listening to Howard Stern. So I
Right,
used to
right.
listen to it with him. And one of our friends was just, I think we were gonna go see Private Parts, and one of our friends was like, "I'm not seeing that. I don't want to see Howard Stern's penis."
I see.
And they're like, that's not what the movie is about, right?
Right. Right.
I was like, you don't see. I listen to Howard Stern now on Sirius radio
Serious.
while I'm like driving around or while I'm doing work.
Sure.
And this guy had called in and said that they were trying to come up with a promo for this is actually a while back because it was for the Summer Olympics, back when it was going to be in 2020. Yeah, before they had to postpone it.
Postpone it. Yeah.
So they were coming up with like a promo to tie it in with it, and he comes up with this really crude and like disgusting thing, and he goes, Howard's like, why would I do that? And he's like, oh, because of and he's like, you listen to my show, right? He goes, you know what? He's like, fuck these people. All right, I have been on the radio since the late 70s.
Yeah.
He says, I've been like number one in all these markets going on over 35 years. And my reputation is that I've become a very good interviewer. And all of you fucking assholes just think I'm like a come on my face guy. Why did I do this for all these years? Getting up at 4 a.m. to try and give you a good time.
Yeah.
He's like, a lot of you don't know me.
Yeah.
Read my book.
Yeah.
Go buy it.
I should check that out sometime. Yeah. But you know what though?
Why did I bring up that story?
Well, speaking personally, right? I found the way the world is now. I feel like that cliche, like, we're more divided than ever. It's just, what's really shocking to me is over the past, even like since we finished school, right? I thought when I started looking into conspiracy stuff and going from Kubrick and looking into Eyes Wide Shut and then reading articles about the connection between Eyes Wide Shut and the Illuminati from back in the day, right? And then going down that rabbit hole, which is probably one of those things that really made me be like, you probably put me off from some people. I get it, but whatever. But I mean that I understand. But to be honest with you, though, it was an incredible education because then you get a sense of what it's like when you have when you are passionate about a subject that you don't know is controversial. Like, I didn't know talking about the Illuminati was kooky world. It was more like, this is interesting. Like, especially when you look into the European connections and the group that was called the Illuminati back in the day. And then how that spread out from the connections with the Freemasons and the American Revolution and the French Revolution and Luciferianism. And then you just, you start connecting the dots, right? Into what we have now with the current level of perception of globalism, right? It's what surprised me was that it can be so easily dismissed. And the reason it's so easily dismissed is because it just feels like it's kooky territory. It feels like this isn't real. But then you have people. Remember when we were talking about we were talking about script writing, and you said when you're starting out in screenwriting, you're going to write versions of these different characters. You're going to write versions of you. You're going to write different versions of you. And then later, I had quoted one of your scripts, the fuck movie quote from your McInerney script. and then remember and then what happened was I said, remember Everett Azen was a professor of ours. He was my first year professor. Was sitting in for, I don't know if it was for a second year screenwriting teacher. I don't know if it was Joan or if it was Melissa Miller, right? And then he said, who would talk like this? Like what couple would talk like this? And then your response, and at the time, I don't remember what you said at the time, but your response to what I said. Remember, like, in regards to Everett Asian, you said, but nobody, like, people are bringing in scripts. Nobody talks like this. Like, these are just different versions of people that they're thinking sound like people, but they're really themselves, writing themselves into their scripts. They're people they're just doing it unconsciously. Well, it's a similar kind of approach where people are they're culturally conditioned by people who will make big deals and not necessarily infiltrate, but propagandize, if you want to even use that term, creativity and culture, and it happens. And what's really sad is that when you have these kinds of people constantly kind of putting money in certain directions, then you're going to be influenced away from certain things, and you won't even know it. It happens. I'm sorry to say, but it does. And you won't even know it happens until you look back on some of the things that you like from your past. They might be so silly and stupid that you realize, like, holy shit, I actually bought into this kind of stuff. Like, I actually voted for that person. I actually like this girl. I actually like this kid. I actually hung out with this person. What was I thinking? You know, because everybody was different at the time. Yeah, it's not like the product of a great conspiracy or anything like that. I get it. But at the same time, it's almost dismissive enough to be absurd enough to say, like, hey, you know what? Conspiracies don't happen anymore. They're like a thing of the past. It's like people don't think cheating can happen in sports, or even road fraud can happen. Sure, this stuff can happen. We're human beings. This shit happens all the time. The thing of it is that you just don't want to grasp the enormity of what this actually means. Basically, that's my conclusion from it. Basically. And yeah, you can keep on going with the rabbit holes, and you can just find out all these different connections. And honestly, I think people should do that. Maybe not everybody, because I mean, it can really expose some maybe spiritual and mental illness in some people. I get it, but at the same time, Sean, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just feels like the thing is, it's just the enormity of it is just so like. It's just it just becomes like one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll put it down to this way, right? When you read a book like Tragedy and Hope, which I did, that book is like 1,000 pages long, right? It was written by a guy who was Bill Clinton's mentor. His name's Carroll Quigley. He was a professor at Georgetown University. I don't read like this conspiracy shit. I read stuff that's like, okay, this is academically published. There's a whole history with this specific book that would raise your eyebrows if you heard about it. Like the publisher tried destroying the plates, the publishing plates at the time. Guy didn't know why. Like, why are you trying to destroy my book? There's an interview with him on YouTube. Somebody recorded it. In the same interview, the guy talks about the Illuminati. It's like, what the fuck? Why is it? And this is back in the 60s, 70s. It happens. In the meantime, you read this book, and he talks about, okay, see, now I lost my train of thought. but you read this book, and it's like this guy talks about how like each of these different nations, like it's pretty much the history of the world up until that point, like the mid 20th century. And for instance, he'll talk about like Japan. Like the history of Japan. The history of Japan just happens to be like, gangsters running Japan. And these gangsters just make themselves respectable. Can you imagine like growing up thinking like, oh yeah, your heroes are really just people that you're told to be your heroes, and guess what? They actually killed and murdered and raped a lot of people. You won't be able to buy it. You can't think that way, because you just feel like, part of you's, the other side of being innocent is that you just don't grow up. You just are stuck in a certain amount of like naivete that you don't feel the urge to grow out of for whatever reason. And it's sad and it's tragic, but the thing is, it's like, that's sort of what it is, unless, you start, it doesn't have to be conspiracy shit. You have to find your own way to make art, basically. You have to find your own way to express yourself and through your charisma somehow. Because then that's when you meet with problems. That's when people start picking on you. That's when people start, saying like, you're full of it. You're full of shit, man. You need to get out more. I know you've heard that a lot. It's like, if you run into those kinds of things, that's probably maybe a good thing. Because then you're running into people who kind of like need broaden their horizons a little bit. Because otherwise, it's just you're stuck. It's just you have no idea of like how, not I guess the world kind of works, but then you'll have an idea of how you can express yourself. And I think now what's going on is that we're running into a lot of people who probably are getting that, in huge doses day by day, and they don't know how to deal with it. I mean, that probably is what's going on nowadays. Like they don't know what to do. Like they probably see like the other side, quote unquote, as just crazy people, And now it's like we're fucking stuck at the moment because we don't know which way is truly correct. Because now, I mean, it's sort of like we're in a lab, right? And we're the experiments that became aware that we were the experiment in the lab. So now what do we do? What's the next step, and how do we stop the experiment? And by stopping the experiment, does that mean we rob ourselves for the meaning of our own existence? Can you tell it's like 2 a.m?
Yeah, you know what it is, like when it comes to things like, I will admit, when it comes to, say, conspiracies or like, political stories or, things
right.
that I'm not like very well versed in it. Which might be one of the reasons that when people start talking about politics, I'm like, I don't want to talk about this.
Right.
The other thing happens to be that a lot of the people I happen to know don't seem to like follow the same kind of idea I have about politics. Forget your viewpoint. Like I can be friendly with people that support a different like political party than me. It's the way they talk about it that can turn me off, because if I meet like somebody who's a liberal and talks like a certain way, I'm like, oh man, just shut the fuck up. If I meet somebody who's like a conservative and they're talking about certain things a certain way, I just be like, shut the fuck up.
Fuck up. Yeah. Dude, I gotta tell you, there was this girl that I was seeing back in college. It wasn't the girl. It was another girl, right?
It was the other girl. Okay,
it was the other girl, and she came from like a family like super Republican. She was like totally their whole like behind W the entire way, which at the time was like, what? How can you do that? For me, I couldn't understand it, but at the same time, I was much so it was like you. It was like I had no idea. And we would talk, and then she'd say like, "Oh, you're so liberal." That's the way she would say, "You're so liberal," and I'm like, "What does that even mean?" I honestly had no idea, like no idea. And then over time, I got to know what she meant. At least I think I got to know what she meant. And wouldn't you know it? Lately, I feel like what? I kind of respect her. Well, I don't know if she still holds this point of view anymore. I haven't talked with her in a long time, but I can kind of respect where she's coming from now. Whereas before, it was kind of like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, wait, what? And then you're like, oh, maybe I am. And then, you kind of like all my life I've been like labeled things that I'm like, what is that? I don't understand what that is. And then you start thinking about it. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Does that mean that? Maybe it is. And then at the end of the day, you're like, no, not really. But then you're like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fucking frustrating, but at the same, I can see where she's coming from, though. I got maybe more respect for her. Actually,
yeah. So.
And it's so funny because I don't. You know what? It's not like I feel like I'm a quote unquote liberal person. I'm like, okay, live and let live, right? I get it, right? And I'm fighting to stop to not quote the McCartney song right now, but I get it. And well, I think the way things are now is that I think I kind of summed it up before. It's like how liberal can liberal be, right? Like it's almost as if it's like being set up, right? So that it's like, okay, you know what? We want you to be as totally free as you possibly can be, but guess what? Not really, because you're gonna fall to prey to your own deficiencies and the deficiencies of your culture, and that'll fuck you up. That'll end you. Probably.
Yeah.
It's a really Scott movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost kind of find, like I said before, when people would often talk to me, I mean, a lot of it kind of came in college. I had a lot of friends that kind of, the only way they spoke to me was, I mean, a lot of it was probably some pushback on, George W. because it was a weird time. It was after 9/11.
That was awful though.
But it was, I just was like, dude, I want to talk about like other things. Like, why don't we talk about you? Talk about me. Talk about some other shit. Like, and
let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk.
And funny enough, like, and this isn't the exact words, but like the answer would be, like, if we don't talk about this, we're not going to have a world to be talking about art. I'd be like,
Oh yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, yeah, right.
I'd be like, you know what, man? Like, I remember I dated a girl one time, and like
Yeah.
during the date, she said something along the lines of, "Yo, George Bush is the man," which was a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I say.
I mean, it's the type of like you're meeting anybody and them just going like saying something like, you know, Bill Clinton's the man, or you know,
Well, I've got a lot of those. Yeah.
Barack Obama's the man.
Well, there were tons of that.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? Here's my. You want to know what's really kind of the problem we're gonna have now, is that there was a reaction to the George W. Bush years, and people decided they were gonna vote, and they voted for, you know, certain individual. Kind of was you know this great thing that happened in history of, you know, opening it up, and then he made a joke about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump decided that he was going to fake run for president, and then did. And there was such a backlash because the last 4 years of Barack Obama's presidency were not great. There was such a backlash to that the Republicans, well, not the Republicans, the conservative voters were like, we are going the exact opposite way here, and we're gonna, I don't know. And I think that maybe the same thing happened 4 years later, and I feel like this next election is going to be a fucking no holds barred, and
it's gonna be a WWF pay-per-view.
It's the. I used to complain that the candidates were too similar. Man, I wish they would simmer down.
You know what? So I've read Michelle Obama's book, and I'm in the middle of Barack Obama's book, right? And well, his presidential memoir, right? Because he's written like 3 books. So this is their book, and I'm not saying this to brag, right? But the thing is, like, I got to the point in the book where he's talking about H1N1, and he's meeting up with his team to sort of deal with this problem, like, you know, the CDC and so forth. And then keep in mind, this book came out, I think, last year. It's called Promised Land. Here's where I stopped in the book, and, you know, take from this what you will. He says, he pretty much goes, well, we had to be careful not to rush out a vaccine, because during the Ford administration, they rushed out a vaccine for, I forgot what it was at the time, during the Gerald Ford administration, and then they dealt with the immunological problems from people taking the vaccine that was developed within probably a year of when it was necessary. He writes it in the book, and I read that, Sean. I'm like, all right, I gotta stop this. I gotta stop reading this for now, because it's like, I'll leave it like that, because I just felt like, holy shit. I mean, this book came out last year, and I'm surprised that statement even made it through the edit, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it's history, right? But at the same time, it's like, you know, to have that right there in that book, and I haven't seen this quoted anywhere else. So when I read that, I'm like, okay, I have to stop this right here. So just in case, you know, either way, right? Regardless of how you feel about the vax, I get it, right? But to be honest with you, it's like, look, it's not like these people come down from their ivory towers with these perfect things, right? These things have flaws. Here you have the former president of the United States, which, you know, you can say like, oh, well, he's a human being like just like everybody else. But at the same time, it's like when he says something like that in his own book and nobody else talks about it, it's like, come on. Just bookmark that, as it were. Just keep that in mind. These things happen, and then years later there are repercussions for it. So be careful. You can make your own choices, of course, but just be careful. That's all. That's all I kind of wanted to just toss in there. I don't know why. I just wanted to mention that, because you talked about Obama, and I'm like, yeah. So many people put him on a damn pedestal, and I'm reading his book, Sean, and I'm like, this guy just wanted to get in there for the fame. Like, I'm sure there was some like ideological, like, you know, um, what's the word? Ideological. I think there was some honest ideological like maybe feeling he has or had, or at least maybe still has. That's sort of present. That when people see him speak or they meet him, whatever, they respond to that. But you read it, and I see some of the photos they took of him, and I'm like, this guy just feels like such a. There's a lot of PR.
Oh, of
And
course, yeah. Well,
and
you think about the fact that, like, after his presidency, him and Michelle, they started a production company. Now, granted, what they do is like positive-minded, like investigative documentaries. So,
interesting.
That's good. It's not like they're out there making Transformers. Well, here's some funny.
Those are to speak.
Here's some funny shit. In 2000, when Clinton was going out, there was a rumor that he was going to become a minority partner in DreamWorks.
Oh, that rings a bell.
Yeah,
actually, yeah.
Because he had a desire to get into film production because he loves movies. Kind of like the whole thing where like Obama would have like his books and his movies for the year.
Right.
Clinton used to do a end of the year movie review with Roger Ebert.
No shit, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he always had interesting movies. Usually, one of them was a foreign film, at least. He loved movies.
Curious. Yeah. Interesting.
So, jeez.
I wonder that's one reason why like them and the Spielbergs got so.
Oh
close.
yeah, I'm sure it was
because them and the Dansons and Steenburgens they're all like involved together.
And then probably what happened was Steven was just like, I don't think this ship is going to stay afloat. Don't get on.
Wait,
for DreamWorks.
Oh, funny. Okay. That's a history of itself.
But
do you remember that photo of him, Katzenberg, and Geffen? They're like the Beatles. Remember that? Remember that photo?
I do remember
Jesus, dude. Man. Oh, Lordy.
Yeah. So we're getting into weird territories here, talking about presidents.
Dude, when you decided to make a podcast with me, it's already weird territory. Let's just be real here.
Yeah.
Like, you're making a podcast with him? What? Oh my god.
Yeah. So it's I got a funny story for you. This was I don't know how long ago this must have been, but at one point we're watching television, and Aisling looks at the screen. And it's the president's on the TV, and she goes, "Who's that clown?"
Which one was it?
It was Trump.
It's hilarious.
Who's that clown? Oh, that's Donald Trump. She goes,
yep.
"Why is he orange?"
Who's that clown? In the mouth
I was like,
babes.
"Oh my god!" She literally thinks he's a clown. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, there were times where you see him and the poor guy just seems like he's just like, this is not his good day.
Yeah.
Like, he just comes like bright, like, it's like you have to turn down the saturation on the TV a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to Oh my goodness. Yeah.
From the mouth of babes, yeah.
From the mouth of babes. Well, before, I think we're close to wrapping up, but I mean, not yet. Maybe a few more.
Yeah.
A few more.
You know what? I'm going to change subject here.
Sure, go ahead.
We have to come and see you, or something.
And we have to come and see you. We've actually been we were thinking about like maybe driving out like to like doing like a road trip to Montauk.
Oh, okay. That's a long trip.
I don't know how it's gonna have. I know, which is like why we haven't done it. Like we can just maybe stop by Sean and Ann's house, and that way she can everybody can meet the girls. And then we keep on going, but it's like 4 hours just to get to Montauk. It's a long trip.
Yeah, you know what it is, because have you ever been out there?
No.
At a certain point, the highway kind of ends, and you're just on like a 2-lane road.
Okay.
Yeah, the further you get out, like the Long Island Railroad at a certain point stops being, powered, and then they have to use the diesel.
Interesting. Oh shit.
Because the train tracks are, they're low to the ground, and it has to do with some environmental bullshit. Which is interestingly enough, for funeral homes out east, because of certain regulations, you would a lot of times you'd have to embalm a body, and any embalming fluid. And they're a little iffy on whether or not it's blood content too, but embalming fluid can't go down the drain. So you got to put them in these biohazard buckets.
Bags.
Like it's a plastic drum.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know why I just brought that up, but because of the environmental things out there.
Yeah. Have you ever think about doing a podcast or like a show about just your mortuary knowledge there?
Yeah. I just get on and go, it sucks.
And now here's my thoughts on gay marriage, and you start talking about embalming people. Yeah.
I'd be like, this and that. It was like, what really grinds my gears is when I have to go to the hospital and the family's still, well, actually it wouldn't be the hospital, but it was like, I go to the nursing home, the family's just still in the room, and I'm like, you're fucking with my cash here. I gotta go. Come on.
Too soon. Oh my god, dude.
I literally said that once. I went to a nursing home and they didn't have the body ready for me to pick up. And I'm like, I called and you said I could come here. I just drove 35 minutes to come here.
And it's not ready.
No, and you're telling me I have to wait 2 hours? I was like,
oh my god, are you kidding me?
I need this to be done. I was like, you are fucking with my cash.
Holy crap.
Because I had to call up my boss and say, hey, that other job you wanted me to do, I can't do it unless I leave here.
Yeah, right. But then you have to come back, like later, no? Or like after you drop off, I guess, the other job or the body?
Yeah, it's the pain in the balls type of thing with, stuff. And boo.
Dude, that's interesting, right? To live that life, as it were. No pun intended. But it's like you do that, and then when you started going into it and you started learning that, right? That world. Like, did it refine your opinion or your view of life? Did it make you a bit more cynical? Did it make you just more like, I don't know. Did it make you anything? I guess. Seeing that,
I don't know. It intensified my dysthymia, so I just think about the worst and the impending doom of everything.
God, my dinner with Sean Nolan. Jesus, dude.
I was like,
wow.
Probably not the best job to be getting into if you just have a chronic outlook of the doom and gloom coming around the corner.
Right. Yeah. Oh my god. Holy shit.
Yeah. And children are just always haunting my my life.
What do you mean by that? Are you talking about
dead children?
Dead children.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Oh my god.
Sorry to get dark.
Oh, no, Sean, I don't mind.
I'll get
dark.
funny here. I once had to embalm a woman who was 100 pounds and had breast implants that were way too big for her.
Huh. So what happens with breast implants? What happens with breast implants when the body starts to decompose? Does the silicone still persist? That's an interesting visual.
Yeah, probably still there.
Like, is it still there?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness! So there's like is there like an industry in grave robbing still? Like, does that still happen?
You mean like to go steal some fake boobs?
or in general?
I don't think grave robbing is quite as big a
It's
thing,
gone.
especially since they started
No.
putting in like burial vaults in a lot of the cemeteries. It's
Yeah.
become a much harder thing to ever undertake.
Jesus, it's like a heist. That's goddamn. Huh. We're not talking about mausoleums. We're talking about like the walled vaults, right?
Yeah, they'll
Big,
put them
yeah.
in the ground as
Oh,
extra protection that the casket goes
they're
inside of.
vaults. No shit, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I didn't know they did that now.
some of them, not
Oh
every
my,
place.
I should tell you something. Oh my god, I don't know how this slipped my mind. So last week my grandfather passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he was like in his 80s, and he was in Spain, and my parents headed over to Spain. Uh, it was so sudden. Um, uh, I said my goodbyes to him a few years ago. You know, he got very sick, and then he bounced back, and it's not awkward because it's like, okay, well, I've already kind of felt like I had to say like I was emotionally there
I know what
already.
you're saying. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know so I feel like, oh yeah, every moment is a nice moment, and he was old enough to see his great granddaughter and so forth, so that was very nice, and my grandmother's still around. So the other day we did a FaceTime with them on with Satya, Sabrina, and I were just like showing my grandma her great granddaughter. But no, my thoughts have been towards death lately, yeah, as well, in a more immediate sense
Yeah.
than
Well, that
I mean,
especially
for your
will
daughter.
happen when you have like a child.
Yeah,
The thought comes around every once in a while.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
But
I
I
was
mean,
thinking about like when I was up in Plattsburgh and Anne gave birth to Aisling, she had
yeah.
a blood clot. And
Oh
I thought to
shit.
myself, I was like, you better not fucking die and leave me with like this
Oh,
girl to raise.
god
I'm
damn.
like, I'm not staying in Plattsburgh. I would have had to move back down to Long Island. No job.
Right,
Probably living in my sister's house with, my
right,
daughter. With
right,
my sister, probably raising her like she's her daughter. And I said to Anne, I was like, I
right,
would have had to have found some woman to marry me to take care of her.
right.
I was like,
Indeed.
because I can't take care of a little
It's fuck.
girl.
Yeah, yeah. No, I no, I feel the same way sometimes. I'm like, oh my god, if something happened to Sabrina, it's just I don't know. It would just be like, that'd be like obviously a life
Yeah.
changer. Yeah, yeah.
See, we're getting dark
That
again
sucks.
here. This is what
Well, I
happens when you
mean, I don't
talk.
mind. I don't mind getting dark, and I don't mind making like like gallows humor or anything like that. Not that this is what this is, right? But you know what? I feel like whoever listens to this, if you put this out there, right? I mean, they'll listen to it and they have the choice of skipping it or whatever, right? But the thing is, it's just the facts of life, dude. It's just the facts of life, the facts of life. That's what it is. It's it's it just happens. I mean, like I didn't spend a lot of my life like reading books just because I was like, oh, I want to like just find out how well somebody can write. It's more like because I wanted to learn. I wanted to see how how dark what's beyond my immediate cognition, right? And I guess to some degree, thankfully, I guess it helps. It helps. I don't know, not dissociate, but it makes you kind of, I guess, more prepared to like at least a little bit, just to like, deal with this kind of stuff. Like I wouldn't mind listening to like a podcast from you, like talking about just your experiences in your profession. That's for sure. It's like I don't think I don't go out looking for this. I'm sure that it's out there, but honestly, it's like that's very unique.
Yeah.
With your sensibility, what you have, it's very interesting.
Yeah, the sad thing is there's two types of people that would probably listen to that.
Oh no.
And one of those types annoy the shit out of me.
Oh god.
Because
Yeah.
they're people that either try to eventually or dream about working in a funeral home.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
right.
you are the, like, you're the red flag kid who, takes gerbils home and does autopsies on them in the backyard.
Oh God.
You're that equivalent. You're going to be a serial killer one day. The serial
right.
killer equivalent of working in a funeral home. Because you're going too hard at it. The other person who listened to it is probably just going to be like women, because women listen to everything dark. Serial killers, yeah.
Yeah. So I joke with Sabrina because Sabrina goes to the library, or she gets like these ebooks that are just like these like wife thrillers, like The Next Wife, like Lifetime shit, and I'm like, she's like, oh, you read the bigger books, I'll stick with these. I'm like, okay, honey, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Don't return them yet because I want to read them too, and I'll read through them, and I'm like, this is just like the other ones, and these aren't really that good. I remember I probably like read maybe a handful of somewhat quasi good ones.
Yeah.
Right, that she got out, and then there's this one book called I'm not even to give you the title, but it was kind of like it was like a bad time. It came out within the last couple of years, and I don't even want to promote it. And I read this damn thing, and I'm like, this was not fun. This was not a fun read for me. I didn't like it. And she's like, yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, this is like not good. And it was it was like a bestseller thing, which reminds me, I wanted to bring this up back to Woody Allen really quick. Because if you read his book, right?
Okay.
Check this out. So if you read his book, he becomes like puzzled why he's been canceled. And I don't mean to brag or anything like that, but the poor guy just doesn't know why, like the New York Times, which he says he's grew up reading all his life, just won't talk about him in glowing terms anymore, and why he can't get funding in the United States. Right? Like he made a movie that can't be released in the United States.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, well, I don't understand what's going on. Meanwhile, if you look at the very front cover of his book, it says New York Times bestseller on it. So I'm like, this poor guy is totally clueless. He talks about Weinstein. Check this out. This is funny, and this ties back to Roman Polanski really quick. So, in the latter part of his book, right, which is to say, like the most, one of the more recent events that happened to him, right? He had somebody say up to him, like, "Hey, you know Roman Polanski, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure. I met Roman like a long time ago." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to Roman's house for a dinner party. Do you want to come?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, sure." So he tells Suni, like, "We're going to go to Roman Polanski's house." And Suni's like, "Oh, that's fantastic. I'm gonna get my best my best dress. We're gonna go, right?" So they go to Roman Polanski's house, and the guy they see is not Roman Polanski. And Suni's like, "Why aren't you saying hi to him?" I'm like, "That's not Roman Polanski." And Suni goes, "Yeah, it is." And Leanna goes, "No, I met this guy. This is not Roman Polanski." Anyway, cut to the chase. This guy's not Roman Polanski. There was a confusion that happened. So it was like a very kind of a ha-ha moment. But here's the thing. In the previous chapter, he talked about how, he wasn't Roman Polanski. Like Roman Polanski, raped this girl. I'm not that person. I'm not that person. Right? And it's like, it's not cool that, that Ronan Farrow, is quick to defend Harvey Weinstein or whatever it was, right? Whereas he bashes me and that kind of thing. Whereas the next moment he's like, "Oh yeah, do you want to go to Roman Polanski's house?" She's like, "Sure, let's go." I'm like, dude, it's like there's a lot of tone deafness happening here. like where are you standing here? I know this guy is like your friend or your colleague or whatever, right? And you say like you don't do the things that he did that he admitted to doing. But at the same time, you're just sort of leap at the chance of going to his house for dinner, whereas like later on it turns out it wasn't even him. It's like what is this? And the whole thing about like the New York Times won't even talk to me or whatever anymore. Like I'm a pariah and so forth. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I mean, going back to Kubrick and the whole establishment kind of thing I was talking about earlier. It's like some of your films are just so huge. They're so influential. That you and your colleagues, in no small measure, helped engineer or not engineer, but influence the way things are now. I'm not saying that they're like the ones that are the ones that are finger pointing and all this sort of thing. Not overtly anyway, but it's like one reason we have like feasted on like the delights of having this really I don't know what to call it, this really immersive kind of like pop culture or even film culture, is because people like him were passionate about wanting to do their own films and doing them well enough so that it gives us a delight, and that's why we pursue it in one measure or another, right? And the connection to culture there has is that this is so big that it attracts people who may have certain proclivities, and they're the elite. They're the elite of this now, or at least they have been, as enthroned, as it were, and now they're on the way down. Probably, who knows? But it's interesting to see that they're like that perspective he has, that he's written about in his own book, saying like I don't understand why this is happening to me, whereas at the front cover of his book is touting that this is a New York Times bestseller. It's like bewildering. It's almost like when you read it, it's like, what is this? This is like Twilight Zone kind of shit. This isn't normal. This is like a Salvador Dali, like surrealist kind of like satire. It's not really real, but it is. Yeah. So I wanted to tell you that, because once we got talking about Woody Allen, I pointed this out to Sabrina. I'm like, Sabrina, look at this. And I'm like, now look at the front cover, and it says New York Times bestseller on it. I'm like, There you go. Anyway, that's that. Well, can you also do an edit of with the Halloween song? Remember the Halloween song he sang?
Oh yeah, everything will happen on Halloween. I showed that to Ashlyn. And she said, "You go, anybody seen my tambourine?" And she goes, Why does he have a tambourine?" Like, I was just waiting for her to go, "This is stupid."
It has its own real like weird kind of like. I hesitate to use the word appeal to it. I don't even know what it is.
She reacts to things like hilarious. I should do reaction videos with Ashlyn. Like,
please, you'd be famous.
Like when she saw the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and she's just going, "What?"
I remember you said, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, I think I might have mentioned that. It was like the best part of that scene is that they're crossing the streams and Stay Puft goes, "Woo!"
Sadly, did you see Ghostbusters Afterlife?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't yet. All right. I won't go into it.
I'm trying to think of what else she saw that she was like, "What? What was that?" Why does he
just have a camera on standby? Like, just whenever, like, it's like, has she seen like Empire Strikes Back and all that stuff?
No.
Oh Jesus.
No.
I don't even know.
She watched Legend with me. She was
really.
She was very young though, and she's just like talking about the movie. She's like, that guy's really red.
Oh, really quick, can we talk about Book of Boba Fett?
I haven't been watching it.
Oh, fuck. All right, well, there was 2 really kind of incredible episodes that happened in it, and then the rest of it's kind of shit.
Oh.
With good moments, but it's just shit with good moments. I was surprised they dropped the ball this badly, from my perspective, anyway, from my point of view on it. I was really sad about it. I'm like, oh, man, all right. I mean, I remember when I watched The Last Jedi. First, I was kind of excited to go into it. I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen, right? And then I saw it. I'm like, oh, I guess Star Wars isn't for me anymore. And then I watched Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, they try to bring it back a little. That's what they do, right? There's an ebb and flow to like Disney Star Wars now, where they fuck up and they fuck up big. And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what I think works about would work with something like The Mandalorian, is that it is a throwback to the shows like, it essentially is Wanted Dead or Alive, the show that Steve McQueen was on, or like Bounty Law from that's it. It really is Bounty Law,
Yeah.
But like the
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk or like Adventure
yeah.
of the Week. Uh,
Yeah.
Except for the fact
True.
that like he's been saddled with like this lone wolf and cub type of thing.
Type of thing. Yeah.
And I said that I think is you're getting back to the basics of like the cliffhanger before like
True.
watching a movie, and I'm like, I think that is what helps it.
Yeah.
Also, the look
True.
of the show is cool with the
Yeah.
LED green screening.
Yeah. Which is hard for me to tell. Actually, I sort of get I get lost in
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's true.
Shit,
It's true.
My leg is cramped up.
Oh no, I'm sitting on the couch. I have everything set up.
I should have sat on the couch instead of sitting in the kitchen on the hardwood chair.
Oh Jesus.
I think my rear end is gone.
That's what happens. Oh my God. There was something else I wanted to bring up really quick before we stop.
The dead speak.
Damn it. Oh God, the dead speak.
So I had to throw that in.
Tell you. Oh yeah, dead can suck my ass. Kidding me? The dead speak. I wish that was even. I watched this clip show, this compilation of George Lucas stuff earlier, like him doing quotes and stuff, like these George Lucasy moments. And then there's one I never saw before where there were these guys trying to get like his his autograph, and he's like, I don't do autographs. And he's like, come on, please. I'm like, guys, I'm not going to give you guys. Like, we'll give you money. I'm like, if you're going to give me money, just get a job. Like, why are you going to give me money for autographs? He's like, that's not fair. We don't have anything. And he goes, I didn't have anything either, and I made movies. That's what he said. It's like I guess just I had nothing. I just started making movies, and that's what happened. Come on, guys. It's like it's a pain in the ass. Oh man. Yeah. Well, on that note, why don't we wrap it up, and then can we still stay on afterward as we as I export this out and send it over?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's the end of ShJuawnCast 5. What do you think, Sean? I didn't pause it yet, but any last words? any final comments?
Let's see. No, I can't think of it. I was going to think of something clever, and I can't. It's.
Oh, you know what you haven't done, and this one and the last one. Was,
hey, how you doing?
All right. Well, on that note, hey, how you doing?
Bye.